Yama mwachima mwakwaba eba United Television so ene 16th May 2026. No champion sima enwotwe dwumedi ni din ye critical issue. Ye no motina fi sabra kwapem se bebo anopa yi duba ko ne so donhwere miensa. Ame no betina fi ha. Ene ye bedi nkoma kwa kire ye papa isansensem wo ho no emodu edoso. Ye beto ato adwene na fe ye de atoton se de bia ye abekwan no. Ye wo abani wi a na ye de guso no yemu na ya so ne so ye nya nkwan na nkasa na de aboye fufu ne de beboso bia na de aboso nti anopai meda wasese wo de wafidi na ato ha oni yentina ekwapum se du mi no abise du ba kon ebebo ye fa sidama special ice nsuo ne special drink na meme no special grape na isimanim cola wa ha any other flavors ni nyina ebi wa ha ye setis ni nyina we ni etre mo obi hu se ni siti no bi na beboa se yare wa hodo bibraba ni titru and typhoid nso aye no mo ka ho bi ene me nya typhoid no nti mesro so ba no nso a ubenya ho awoto so se nso a menum yi enya de abema me yare bia eno ne special ice be tu so ni free any processes afa mu hanse na bigu sa to awe mu no ese wani ense o ka kire ye so ne so se de be ya ebeboa e ma yare bi mpu na mu a aboa no ewawu na yankofa yare bi amaye ho hye nso se de woto amu no ene de wosa hye dum nyina pepepe esan se jobia na betuma to bottle 1 nti no ena ye ya na ye hwe bi e de agu sa hye mu nti wono bottle 1 wie na onye ska kranto sa hye de bottle no bi wa onya sa hye de na otia no na wo hwe agum he say eno are the same thing, the value is the same. Sanso ena this way chocolate drink and the coffee drink so eboa papa nwenura hye de ma aboa ma yemu bi no ye yefuna twetwe me first na me mafuso. So I used to ham because I used to ham and I said to one my say me ya brantie o ham e ham you can't to me cheating ye chama ni this way no munti no asesa ne ma pa masisi me yefuna tra na asida bia kwa ma nita be kwan ya be ya ne de anu so de pa na fe nit fufu ya ye body ya ene de pusim o madaro madana no pay ye di dwumadi ebram na enen se mabadwun wa wori tie nra IMF o man Ghana ye no mo edinsa wo so ye beka ho asem ne pa na ye hwese sitie na MPP amayoko no so nkrata ne nsema ho da babo nteche se ye tata wo ye tete wo no eno so ye behwe na ya ka ho asem na fe ya hwe nso edi nkoma afansema ho do a for me kan ko ne mpuntu ho na yetumi ekeka ne amade asie ni ye na abo ma no ne puntu bi di Agya Kwabena na ene ye ko ne taw ye nyina nim se ye ma eno atwere nsohwe awie eye BCE for no o ma twere awie na according to reporter GS de ma ye no enkwada ba ye 609,000 ena ekotwere nsohwe no 609,000 ena ekotwere nsohwe no na nkwada nyina no esese omunya ho kwan eko secondary school na ye bisa se ehun samti sense hwemu aba ai ku ehudu bi aye echese nkwada no dodo no a bia be 72,000 ahwe bia wo munya placement na ye bebisa se ehun samti sen ye ni hon komo kakra sense ba ni sa na awofo enso no egugem na emi sas bills se infrastructure hodo aye wo no ya dia ebetumi ama ye ko bibia ye kwa na se nkwada no ebetumi absorb wo mo na nkonkoba se bibia be se nkona because na ebinom dabere mu no enkoyi eredi ombedi no sheda na tosin kakra no ahwe na tumi sese de nyere sense okusua de wonko se okotena ahokyire mu se refugee enti eno ho komo ebedi ni taw na fe no achi no abedwafa tena se na komo kese ho ne no yatumi de nyina enti ene yensaka national coordinator edema Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition ura Benis Mpre Jechi ewufi ha yene no ebedi nkomo ede afa ye oman humasua se de se ko se ne mesiti ankasa ho na fe nkoda ne de no so ye de hu nkomo na ye hu saboto ye mu ne ebenya usa ye mu hye ne esi enya usa dan yu na fe yetumi hu ne nyina anti bene sa kwa aba bibia boko
nyame adom
de radio se ne hu saka national coalition national Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition Dawru bena mobo
yo Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition ye nyumaku aye nsha aban ase aya kan ye ho abom se ye behwe na adesuane ade kire akoso ye wo oman Ghana mu na ye kasama inclusive Rebecca said the vulnerables and all other nkrofo omu ntumi nkasa ma omo ho nanso eye omo right say omunya education ewo Ghana.
Yes, what kind of scenario say what share access to education Ghana na to say especially we from all level if you collaborate mu primary or university level no access to say.
Okay, sisia de ebetumi aka say Ghana access to education wo Ghana no very high. I improve a lot. Na emom still na challenges bebre wo ho eba no basic school, kindergarten, primary, KG. Echo junior high na the access to education no has improved. But just say communities bi wo ho no mo access no very difficult amom. Esan say bi wo ho schools no ni omo communities ni mu. Was say omutumi etu kwan bebre ansa no metumi akọ school ena ye wo primary schools bebre wo hon so a JHS enka ho nti abofra ni we primary a just say okọ the next town ana baby fufuro ansa no wetumi akọ JHS eba ne sa na na bebre ate aka kwan mu a omuntumi entoa school ne so but eba senior high school dia ye nyina ye nim say afei de abofra bi anya akonya say obekọ senior high school.
Yan share de ba ku bi na your concentration ni nyina akọ senior high ho. Nanso akwada ne fapem no foundation na ebetuma ka se hia pa. Yan hwe nkwada ya titi won ba mbekọ senior high school yi minimum kurase bi a said ya waka no computer hu bi da. Basic no ase ho no what is say
basic ne de say your problem wo ho titio eba public schools na aban schools no ye wo how bebre wo ho inte no ye ade ba ko asejumeko as GNEC ne ya bohu de ro bebre say wo say aban any core foundational learning and early childhood education no eniema bebre wo ho no me wo say etumi kabom na kwala ne fapem no etumi gina wo adesua mu because eba na KG no mpo na abai schools no KG's infrastructures ni bebre ho no ma enye convenient ma abofra no because abofra no so afiansa na onyin na intellectual ni nutrition ni bibia no wo se nka etumi di mu emra abofra no akọ school a o sha ase no na se ye bohu dero no yetumi enya eho infaso impanifo etie wo kwan bi so ye hwe last year this year education budget na ye hwe allocation na ye call basic school and as foundational learning na say nyame adom akwa enim kakra chen previous years na ye no na afei so no Ghana yetumi asecure project bi ye skill GPE na omo funded through the World Bank as an grant agent no ade a omo betumi atwe teachers nyina o matiti teachers nyina wo kwan a omo betumi aso omo fremu fapem foundational learning na etimi edimu nti yedan abana se any minister say yetumi tutu niema ye CSO so yenso yedi akotene wo mu pa na etumi bu ama ministry no etumi nya asa grant no nti agidi se eno no ebeboa na nationwide nka impempi no partner bi beboa ya na bia wa fa region ba akumienu district kakraba we de nationwide ebetiti teachers ni nyina ekwan omo befa so a omo betumi aboa ama yen foundational learning no SCP but akade ba ako infrastructure enu ye key because funding no and tackle infrastructure school dynamo fra ne betena mu no enkonwa ne ade se de etie no nti eno ye ade ba ako a ha dwen eba KG a okọ private schools ankran na utum some settings ne ye fe omu tables ne amofra ne tena so nya very convenient environment ne ye good but eba aban na akakakra nti me gidi se said ya minister we nani G foundational learning no me sure say with time no ye betumi a plan na sa gap no so anoesi
yen hwem kwada eko ye junior high school omuhwa no mo ko senior high school GHS level no ananfa ne primary level no ekopim GHS level no yen hwe ahokeka ye di wura ho all the time na can see me say akwada no ese Bible kraka se chirakwara no kwa mfaso no so nyini a wo firi hu se de manya funding ana so manya funding se betumi akọ basic level na kindergarten ho na yesiesie ho no ofiri ho no so ba primary a ebia na ha no akoyi ama no obedu primary na say oha no ho a ene say de oye no emfaso bi ama so
yo intino na ye hwe basic inti ye bechiche mu
okay
foundational learning and early childhood education is very key and also say ye tumi hwe na pedagogies na ye de kire mofra na de no ehu hia pa environment na emofra no esua de no ehu hia teacher na o kire abofra na de no ehu hia because ono na was so nya special training because o kire emofra nketwa de ebi ntumi nkasa ebi ntumi express o munti there are various ways e was teacher no etumi e de kire abofra na de empo no abofra bi wo ho no ma na owo ohaw bi ebra onyi no teacher no na wo se otumi hu no hu se abofra we bi a owo haw bi a ebetumi aha ne dache ne asom entem na infrastructure ne so kan hu se dia make into that is one aspect into when your self foundation I will say to me to aso that is the basic no from primary 1 to primary 6 and also no ehu hia pa inti ni nyina no eni hu kwan se ye bi na ye jebi inti ye hwe basic school ni dia na wo se etumi hwe na etumi to aso seamlessly a or how bia emba ana embe break wo ba bia na enha emofra no eni ya disua ne ya de kire nyina
sorry and we assess technology inti no ama kwada na nya access to niam bi a menu ni bi ye nya bi enti ama adesua no nkane no yin use calculator but it to me ebu akonta wo yitirim nti na boy ma wow to me force esua de no be ne ofa AI fu yin na so operate be bia bi ohwe bia ne sa betumi aka akodo wo kuro kase mu etumi ye akodo wo akurase enya access to those kind of niam no nkoda mi no nyina kokotwere BC baako enye disadvantage enye discriminatory yebaka no kwa bi etesa so say yetu ma san kwara ni nya na ko wiase na sabisi ni wantwa na eno so de asam fofora ba ede na wo so se ho na yese ye
okay nti no ade ba ko as a coalition no yaka ho asem bebre na ye equitable distribution of educational resources in terms of eniama na mofra ni sua de se de waka computer ne niama exercise book textbooks and even for teachers ayede omukọ in class ekọ mofra na de no eno so ya ade ba ko a yaka ho asem bebre because emrepi no hu se eya na gaps ewom obekọ school be in the rural area teacher ba ko na o be se classes be se 4 and 5 at the same time eye ohaw nti eme se ye di enjumede no ye ko water region insuo na chi mefe ho no mo baabi say ne nkwala no ekonya inkomo acheche o mekwa mo befa so mo besiesie o mo hu yi atro insohwe no na me say ye koy no na eye aweho say abofra bi a okoche obi isi no brofo kwa ontumi nka bi eniama bi wo ho no ma ontumi nye but the same akwala no oni obi owo Morning Star anase ebia Army Primary wo krom no omo nyina betro insohwe baako eye sa na chese ya ye mu ye ndi amboa ebimu nti eno de ye be stress e wo se ye sanhwe biem equitable distribution of education resources no very important gap no still eso so ukono for crowd there na eno so how bebre ewo mu na emom na me say from the north no rural areas no most of partners NGOs international NGOs no omehu sa gaps no nti bebre na etumi de omani akire ho mo kire say sa gap no ebetumi esia no kwan but e wo say ye aban asudie say omo bridge sa gap no na enkwala ni nyina enya bibia pepepe se dia etie
e ba greater Accra bi wa ha
yo poor urban areas no ebi wo
ebre wa ha ye fa ye ni kire senior high ye free senior high be ye fie be ye nsonni if I stand to be corrected I think so yeah you started say mo de money to famua mo hu improvement bi how na ye shasi nya ya bepim sabre no mo hwe improvement bi ba mu ana say rate at which ye improve no sana na mo pe no ana say we try better than what we are doing now
okay yo emi say etifo ne ahwefo bi beka ya free senior high school by no as a coalition de ye di mu akotene ye hu nyuma bebre na yɛhwɛ sɛ time na free senior high school ne by na sɛ yɛnhyɛ da mboa yɛn ho yie sɛ yɛbɛyɛ free senior high school esan sɛ ɛma enrollment ne kɔsoro ɛmɔfra dodo a na ɔmokɔ senior high school no ɛkɔsoro a ɛyɛ very good sɛ nipa nkwala bebree tumi anya akwanya kɔ senior high school na emom no yɛbɛhwɛ a na bebi ɔmo bɛda aduane ɔmo bɛdi nneɛma bebree na ayɛ ɔhaw nti ɛma distortion bi ba senior high school academic year ne bibi ya mu ebi wɔ hɔ amofra no mu nye aduane ndi ene ade na nsan kura hu sɛ Charles ba out be ka sɛ abaya mfa nnuane ama amofra no ombeto school ni mu ni ade nti no na nka ye per review of the senior high school free senior high school no na ye hwɛ sɛ anye kura no edidie no na ɛyɛ ɔhaw ɛma free senior high school ntinka be ya nka ye ma wofo ni mpontua omeduane pe ema mofra na ne aka no nka aban fa na aban ho hen ha omo emofra ne nye okay na parents ne so enye okay but emi se eno entumi ambe mu na double track system no ebaaye e bedroom mi bi ne yehu said the amofra no results e call from won social na omo choy na ehwe mathematics science social studies ehu se amofra ne performance na it was very down because emedodo na was omutna school no musua ade no eso ate because of the double track no inti no de how bebre ebaye but em say bedu baby na etumi adjust ye na performance no ekosoro kakra but assistance now no this year nkwala omucho bi isi no omo ye 619,985 inti ye hwe ya bakosemu a afi no adoso achen infibia emofra natural in social na che say dodo na was omukọ senior high school no ebedoso in terms of one of the key partners education watch Africa Education Watch hwehwemu hu say ansho ya na mofra be 72,000 omo ntumi nya kwan e senior high school so omo nya kwan na che say omo sa kobo apeso e bibia mu se de tie intino na once again say yehwe infrastructure yehwe teachers classrooms and kwala ne betna se suade dormitories omo beda omo dining hall bibia no na say nketumi kwa enim yenim se aban de nhihye bia to kwan mu a omo sisi school adan expansion on infrastructure but yeyem hihye yen say bia na entumi unsolve problem ne animanim ha because social completion rate of those infrastructure na ye hwese bia yenim so mbetumi awi ansa na mofra no asan akọ back to school and asisi anu so no won say after covid no yetumi ashisha ma yakọ back to the normal May June mofra no echo into academic calendar no so gradually no ye adjusting no you into no say infrastructure na nkoso a ebe ha adwen even though GS the crata ba abonte abeka chen say yenya yenka yakoma nto yem say mofra ni nyina benya school mu kwan but in a way near doubt kakra because yehu nia ekoso wo schools ni mu a yehu say anhwe ya still na ebetumi de ohaw aba
yanhwe September 18th na kwada baby school and na ye ka say so no about nipa 72,000 a enye nipa ketwa ndo so pa aban no hyahyabo se omse na okaji ye so betumi aye mampani kan na nsen ya se World Bank for my about $300 million US yeah they ba beboa expand ye infrastructure won to hwe be by the end of next year there na double track na sefo na eko ba yenya nru ho no pe madwunu ye mo na se ebia oha no betumi aba se nkwada nyina betumi enya school bia akono abande by say obehwe ma private schools no so omotumi afa nkwada ne bi ho no mo de mani akọ omo ko what is saying
yo eno mom no kware but ade ayen shedan fa ye nindi eche bebre say mofra sign na private schools no etumi absorb ene ekwan omo fa so a omo manage no nti no eme say ye de eni ebedi echire ni ahwese private schools na kwan ben so na omo support na mofra ni nyina etumi enya akonya akọ school but ade ba kwa mpesa obia ye nyina ye twe yadwen esiso ne say ye besisi e-blocks bi say nkebeye community day senior high school but eme say ye ja to ho for emri bebre nti eno na ye hwe say nka ebeya aban fa na ni nkyere sa community day senior high schools na omusisi ye no ba how ba ko ne se wo hwe bebi a yesisi schools na eya na emuwa from the community nti ebia na access na krampo no so akoye problem nti eno no ebia recommendation na yebetumi dia ma wo kwan bi so ne se ebia yebehwe some transportation system bia ebeye very effective na enye se bia ene car amba car ase nti no mo friend to me anko school enya very effective transportation system ebetumi a transport mo fra na ko school na ya mo meduane maybe once in a day lunch na abo me sure say no so betumi ayi si burden no and as spaces na school no ewo so no se kwan wo so kra in a way ebetumi a try say ebe convert be into the boarding house because you are used to the boarding system for senior high school no na entumi mbua enim ya from now till September mo frani be ko school no na nka yenhwe say no betumi aboa de a na without no de still na say na make no e bia ebe hard
ebe ni say ya affect say we say me ti say Edward for kan sam say about 72,000 nya kwa admission no me yam hye me kakra eba ni sa parent bia yam be hye no
yo
say aba ni say no money ministry na say Ghana Education Service din sa wo so okwan bi so am butumi madwen kire butumi madwen kire bia na sa adwen kire be na mode ma o mo say de be ya enkonkoduru ho be wie no na fa be he na e panic be ba system no
okay tell me say yeah mostly as a coalition ye nhwehwemu na say yenya issue bi say aya na ye tiny ministry no adwen ho na ehwe kwan e be fa so a omo betumi aso ano ye ma recommendations and other way aye nyina ye betumi aboa any all other people within the civil society space no inti recommendations na ye go so ka say at least from now no ye wo be say 4 months before September inti assurance na GS they amaye no ye be hwe say omumomodea say ye bedi ekire ntem na ambeto yen putupru na fe de ye be find solutions in kwalada form maybe that trunk so ebi nye aduane ndi adesuane adekire ayebasa no nti megidi se de omama ya assurance no yenso ye betu ye bekoso ani omadi nkomo ni ade na ya hwese ebia bibia betumi atoto na kwam na mofra na nya very good environment ni safe space etumi esuade
ya hwade ba ku bia ban se schools ahodo no the category C no or the B ba category B and B so no or the B ko A meaning say ebe page ni mamu kakra ho no mo as coalition no mo hu se e feasible se between samana yi
yo ebetumi ayeye pa because see no parents be a person ne ba call either category A and say B because e feel say e ho no mo na very good amofra ne betumi I improve on more academics but categories no ye de niam bebre na ehwe na edi kan infrastructure wo school no mu nkwala no performance na ye de hwe say we category A and say B ni ade inti senior placement ne ba mripi na oha obia me ba ko school we mempe onya grade we me pese okowe no inti yetumi upgrading ka be ye mpo na nkani hu kwanse enya category A na chese school we there we ya papa chen we nya papa chen we inti nke betumi anka yem plan ahead na nka with time no every school bia senior high school a obabeko no we are okay say infrastructure ni okay learning outcomes okay teacher professional teachers omo che mofra na de ni nyina omo okay nti ye betumi aye na emomu no long term planning no ye nhwe say ye betumi upgrade all senior high school to be the same eno na be address equity na ye ka ho asem no because abofra be na onko category C anadi na why na enko A nti I say it to me she
asamba kwa wokan ya asamba madwum kakra ye nkwada na didi mu esan se akomodo wa usua san hu da wo mendi a obe hu wodi se ede na sese ye se de be ya nkwada didi mu na mo se mo recommend say anka parents de yemfa nkwada na didi no nanka aban emfa tuition ene de aka no date na yentumi enye ne sama ne nyi se nkwada no edidiem no asope me na me wo me ba akwada na aduane obedi so aye se me ma aban na ma na aduane di and then now more kind of na responsibility sent from like ministry no any parents ho.
Okay, into no impempi as a coalition aya na yenke kasa nka behwa yenhwe ade a ebeboa yen as oman na yeyi political will no efimu kakra because na I say a free senior high school nti ye pese bibia ye free ne hu say oh aban we buy no waya ade say wama senior high school aye free nti no ebetumi aboa ma ometumi enya long term aye we nti no na eye den say bia review me say bedu baby no me say yen president and other people nya say komo omo be hwe say e be review policy no but and to me ambaso because not just say yen nyina ye hu say review bi bem na ye shift cost na because feeding ni de eye challenge sabofra na ndidi a addition ni be ye bibi say eye uniform ene niema bi a eno no ye betumi manage in a way but aduane ni de o sabofra ni didi 3 times in a way into no new government and so about it is free ye mpese ye besesa near aban a etwa mu de aba no so that ye beka say bia ye na free senior high school ye begu say de ye te ye doing political campaign say oh NDC ba omo betwa free senior high school mu don't vote that kind of thing you know not just say omo so koye nhihye bia say ye besesa na ebe ha adwen eno na ama aye den say nka review no ebetumi aba no nti feeding no is one of the major costs for the free senior high school nti nka yetumi review na parents no tua aduane ne ka kopim say ye de nhihye beto kwamu yie say for now Ghana baby a ye du ni de ye total free senior high school a ebeboa obi a na nka school mutna no aye very cordial
asam we me ba kan ho asam aka say your money to anamo bi ama parents ya akwadworo ye be share your responsibilities esan say wona awa akwada no na sa akwada no e wo sukuu mu a so to fie ona ma na aduane di nti say wakọ sukuu a ade na ya nhwe na ye mo ye ntuma akwada na aduane ni na de say books ne niam na aban emfama mo amadwene say mo ni parents bi hia PTA for no ku ahodo ni na be hia na ya mo hu hia say yen as parents no edwo no betumi atua say da me betumi atua nti adentina yen ka mo bia me witia pondu 10 cities no bitua 2 cities kra na me sense me de no wosoro nti no ono 2 no me de metumi de ni bia be ka wona say abalance niama mu be putumi push agenda be ma parent awo fati asesa
on say emre bi no enka say na review no eba no na akwete say there was debate be around say parents na omu full say omu betumi etua ma omu ma no komuntua na omu ntua no ebia aban encover omu but na ebisa say criteria no ye be ye ne sen say voluntary ni parents na nkasa mbran say metumi etua me ba feeding ti no me pese metua ena nia oni bi no so eyesa so na nhihye na nda na kwamu yi a eno so ebe ha adwen because untumi fa weni nti so bia me parent this time metumi etua me ba feeding ma ka so next time de mentumi ntua aban tua na aban so emmoa ne ho a the distortion beba system ni mu nti eno no yentumi but there were parents and ankoma ready say omo betumi etua omo ma no edidie nti nka eyade a but na aban so ma ho kwan even as at now no school bi ani ho kwan say obeka say or jisika or parent ho say or de boa bibi ewo senior high schools nemu it is forbidden ye be hwekra headmistress bi mu headmasters bi mu kra omenya issue because omajiske fi parents ho say omo de boa emofra ni school but voluntary ni say obi de buy it cannot be rejected but ma yentua parents ni ntua levy ana say bibi nti ya dia na at least majority of parents no omunya ya nkomankasa omo betua because na eya ahomete emofra na didie mu
ekoma yedie no ye de besi ha ne sa ye be sori anche bia na me bisa se mo as coalition no mo suggestion adema aban ewo sabra yi wo me the reality ne say parents tua me de obi gina baby ko kan say be say parent tua san say eye wo ba o no kakakra na so ye utumi eba out successfully a wona be di de no enye teacher ni na ekira de na be di de no enti parents say etua enti recommendation be na mo de be ma ban e bia sometimes so be ya be ma government na your popular kakra e wo baby but in reality no popular na obeye no e be ma standard no so etumi akosoro nti efutuo ben na ode ma awofo ene aban nyina efa san hihye no ho ne emfa nsore
yo me dance bebre bio let me say nka review of the senior high school no still na to this time no in here because how no eda so ewo ho bebre nti unse first no senior high school je obela na school fees bill la your uniform your house uniform church cloth any PTA dues ni sane ma no nti saban fa ni nyina na e ka say feeding alone the parents should take is in order me sure say awofobia ebeti ase na most importantly we amount na ye feeding kwala no within a day anka something na ewo from pa anka parents na bebre na betumi etua na anka school fees no akofam ti still na ye behwe say aban should we consider that na ye nhwe say ebetumi aboa until say we are fully prepared say bibia enye free. The next thing na ye increasing number of mofra or mobile senior high school still na infrastructure and we have to invest in the infrastructure at the senior high school level no we share schools bebre na eba asase ni ade na say or how be any oba say they be develop na there are so many abandoned projects in the senior high school ewo because aban bi asase o mentumi enwie fufura be start fufuro intin kane nyina no omo hwe because already no skebi akomu dada intin komu hwe infrastructure ni nyina no omo be upgrade no na teachers training teacher recruitment no so no ometumi afa teachers dodo a ebetumi aboa na free senior high school na mofra dodo a ekọ senior high school no omo ho encho because it's a good sign say we are having a good number of your mano ewo school. It means out of school situation no esort it is esort na very good for you India any aban so emwa na infrastructure no enko enim inti double track no is good say be any double track no but we are recommending that until you be who say everything is in order, the children will be comfortable in school, teachers will be okay, bibia be okay no enka yenhwe say ye betumi SSC ni nyina ebia nyame adom World Bank ska mo de beboa senior high school no enkomo hwe say omo beto omo bo ewie bibia ansana yetumi ayende double track system
ebeda sipi na no pay enkomo twetwe de ade ehu hia person say ya ya oha na awofo dodo no a eja na nti omo sesen de no omo sesen kwada no ana ye hwehwe eba nti yedin komo se ya ma awofo no ofie no nso ehu se na tie se de be ya ekoba se bibi bampo a taken by surprise and bibi atisa nti ana no pe beda wase papa na wo mre ye hwe kwan se be santo safre obi na fe ya waba eno no be nya GS fo nso aka ho na nya ada members ni bi aka ho ni parents kra aka ho na fe atena se holistically ye ni komo so oman na ye hwe kwan be fa so a betuma bo ma ho be so atumi agina nti ana no pe on behalf of my production team ne adwuma wura no da so papa se ode wo mra che yen hwe kwan se ye be san ene wa hia bio the DCP.
Yes, you are the massive power. Akwenya mode amaya eboa oman ni nyina. The massive.
Jo. Era Benis empre jachi. Edin say no ano.
Empere jachi.
Empere. Ampa. Aha, empere. Na me class with the empere. Ampa. Benis empere jachi. Ono national coordinator Adema Ghana National Education Campaign Coalition. And I'm paying any edin komono nti asamono ye nyanwie kwara be school on the 18th of September on betine fiache ebi wo mo nti ebi sabre na I don't know ebi ana sakre bi aba onema hodo bi mu a yeni mara nti ye nyama no so ya ye bekọ na ye GS Ministry of Education PTA for ye be din komo na fiahwe kwampa be fa so a ebi tama on be ka say placement ni baba na kwada bia ye mu nkohyehyere na fi amanfo musa engu muti eti yebeda na sineja no kwama na akọ na so kwa ebedwafo betena se na fi ahase edi nkomo ye free IMF nti eden bi na wo ho nti shebe na wo ho yebedi ehun komo papa na fi ya hwe political terrain ni ma hodo a ekoso MPP fo nso eto aba eye branch level no concerns bibiri ya soro wo ho no so yebehwe se kwambe mu a bibitumi edi no so nkomo kakra na nti we de madam amontwen ye na ye nto kreatia wa ye ba ye be hyase ye be isia. Ewi ade shema me da masese munya bre atwen yen afi bra so se yedi yen komo na abadwafo a abeka mensa ewo fie ha aye sha se bedi nkomo no menifa so eye yasompa edua ya kwanta de hye oyelo ni asosikasemu wobenfo ya wakwa aba bibia boko sante ho ye ene ye wi afreda me ne antenkasa aha
anti na ne ho mfa na kaka
oh dabi anti e pacho
me ne kasa
tie se ye ne ante be kasa ne anti wa my no ankasa ya na amfre bibeku so eye Ebu Buckman or deputy communication director edema UP ekuo no ebonso achira de oticheni ena osan so ewuskasemu nimdie nti Ebu Akwaba bibia boko just wonderful yehwe kwanse honorable TD Von D ebewe kayansa ne osibo twiji ni aso beba na fe ya hihye nkomotwetwe na se na ene bedwafo no ba ko hye akire ono nte ha bi na so hye akire Dr. Peter Tekpe financial economist and a policy analyst ono so ewu fie ha na mo nte ha na mo ne foni ene nanim ewu fie ha yare ni bedi nkomo ansa na maba studio na fe ya ye na ne nyina ne se nyina nim so man Ghana ye wo IMF hihye ye mu na so sisi amene okasa yi sa IMF hihye no enra na man finance minister odonyamfo kesiela ato forcing ene World Bank abana musini ya ha chief ono na ye director me pacho ono na ye penia oda Africa ha na so hwe yedwumedi ahodo so Africa ha press conference ema omode enchechiremu ebaye sesi ye free IMF now so no ya up for new technical assistant bi and 36 months so technical assistant ne yese ye sikino eno den ya ebinim chese ankese ye extend enhihye no ebinim so chese bebi eduru ne ho aye ebinim chese kwese be konsujina kwantia ye ne wo mo yese ye from hihye mu basta na no omo bataye ho eno man technical assistant. What does that mean? Emma economy no ena so for eno ti ena ene ye bebo hwi na ye ne Dr. Peter Tekpe edi ho nkomo ye wi a na fa bdwafo so ya hihye so ewo ha doc ma chien
Pacho meje so
ye da se papa na wo mre na no pay na me bisa se enra ena press conference question minimum se wo hwe bi wadi we achia mafshishi achia bedu ena ye kasai enra ena yes ye de enkrata babontin say ya twe ho fi IMF ho me pacho wo ya twe ho fi wo mo ho ewo kwan ben so sika wo de man ne ya twe ho afiri ho anase ye no mu ni twaka bia bi okura
yo pacho mi da se na mechia etifo no mo hwe nyina na fe so colleague panel so amowo studio honum so me chia omo nyina se ye hwe IMF juma omo ye na International Monetary Fund ekua eboa aman ewo musikasem nti most of the time no so man bi sikasem enko yi a we ye institution a ebe support ya na ebe boa na matutu mu niema yie kwa mo be fa so a ebe ma niema akoyie nti emre bi na atwemu no na Ghana ye sikasem anko yie in between 2021 2022 na ye sikasem anko yie nti na wo se ye kodu sampempe so no se ye nyamwa na enunti na IMF be mu omo be boa ye a mo se within 3 years no omo boa no be boa ye no ye for a period of 3 years sene be ya omo be boa ma ye tumi atutu ye sikasem yie na emre so se sikasem na begina wo bia eye okay no na fe na omo atwe omo ho efiri ho nti sa process na ye di fie film ni nyina ye ade a in the past no ya ti enu bi ni ye DDGP ni dia kika ho nyina nti na akogina se na Ghana ye kodu pepesu bia Ghana be kasa Ghana ye bankrupt sikasem nye na omo beboa ye ama ye bedroom pepesu a ye droi na se ye se IMF hye ya course nyina no ye ntumi nka se ya ban we nko na eboa ye ma ye ba drop pepesu a ye droi hye ase from 2023 and now we are in 2026 now, and I go up. Let's say a buyer I trade money, a buyer super buyer. Na me bo abanya omubaye so say omubo modin pa ama hihye ya ananka da ho mre ananka wo say ye be free IMF na se wo hwe a ye call IMF no approval no by May 17th 2023 nanka ye hwe say even from there copim be say bia August mpo ne ye be free mo finally but wo hwe hihye na wo ho a anka May 17th na meka say ebia from the approval to now no any yebehwe but akwa say ya ko yesika sema to 2 year earlier than sena omuhwehwe no na we ye ejumadi a current government ebe to aso free baby a previous government no sha ase no enti na media abaso me bo current government no abaso nemo we nya dia o say ye di hwahwa ye ho kra because who yare na ko hospital na doctor saw yare a when you beji say wo mato na mo unyanka unyare enti Ghana nyanka yen ko drum pepesu a ye ko du ye because uyare a discomfort a ukom u be free wan kasa wo fie wo pa wo da so wakọ hospital ye be no mama wo pa kakra bi ye be kire mra wo se udidi mra se se udidi mra wo se uda mra se se uda we dre wo se unum se ebi ye very bitter ni nyina wo se wo ye na sa pepepe na Ghana so ko mu uhwe a se ye be du pepe so aye du aye free IMF no nyama ye komu this IMF in fact this is the 18th IMF fire call here IMF ye call here there is the worst of all chere say nyama ye fem asoman no ebi nsida to the extent say obi a wa ge adwuma wa bre sika kakra odi co pension ni savings ni nyina no was affected investment amount for in fact and nam sadi we some amount for yare ye mo be wewu ye every move that is a reality it is a very painful idea ye ko mo asoman a ye mpese ye be ko Mr. Mika say and say ye di hwahwa ye ho sa ye ni enji say ya free IMF to see ye ICT yes and ni je say ya ICT nemon e wo say ye bisa ye ho say and then e be ya ye ntumi kokupio because enye ma ye nkra enti na Mika say ma ye fa hwahwa ye ho enti so Mika say sa ICT asi kire say the ema ye sika sem nye ai no nti ye ko du IMF no eno ene e kire say sisi anu nyama peja nyama sesa nyama ni bi ni sen ansa na ye be ko IMF no na in 2022 inflation e ko do 54%. As a interest rate Bank of Ghana reference rate was around 30. That is policy rate was around 30. Reference rate above also around that time. It is a okoji bosuan wo bank krampo a afi niam bo osu be ye di afi de ye tripa ni say ya ji bosuan masisi ano ye bosuan na ji ya ka say kai di no that your friend no debt compared to this is going to pepper so asisi ano ye to me tua ye ka semre ni so into agwa individual wa koji bosuan wo banga akodu pepper so ka say 1 default say ni say unni ska odi be be mo a e ma ye ka say ebi wo ho a investment e wo ho aban ego bosuan free individual so ni nyina ye si ye nti interest ni so na ye restructuring ni nyina ka ho enti na ma ene yesi sisi ya nyema eba fom na nye se yakoye bibi sronkonti india o say pisa ye hu say so what can we do now because sisi ano debt anabosu ya ko ya nka omudi ama ye time say ye ntua ekopin pempesu bi o ma ye what we call moratorium no ni nyina eba be ye due sisi we are now coming to be paying our interest and principal regularly inti eba de sana sisi a kwa ye be fa so benye sika ye be tua sa busia when they fall due ye nko bebia ye nko nyama ye ko mu sisi anu enu ne hu nya pa bibi e fa no debt to GDP sisi anyame ado ye around 45.6%, let's say 46% of our debt to GDP. Inflation is what perform to around 3.4. Have a interest on loans and also see a from Ghana reference rate benchmark let the determine interest rate on 10.03. Who share policy rate from 30 now is 14. who share exchange rate now from 15, 14, now is around 11 bracket thereabout. Since yebisa ya say, nyama be na ya Emma sa nyama we are share improve ya indicators ya improve ya plan indicators. And then improve ya sana sisi akopa say IMF sisi ade mugina mo nan so mo betumi ahwe mo hu yie. The question is say, can we indeed say ampa the and the bedu pempesu yi? Is it because IMF wo honti and yetumi na say sisi aye ja ya nkasa ye hwe ye husu ye betumi ato aso ana. Enu ni ade a ehu hia pa.
Unkasem no ye no na press conference omo ye no utie asem a wo mo ekan ye na ese bebia ye wo no still na no wo hwe daily graphic ani mukura asem no e wa o say the nation ends IMF program opt for new 36-month technical assistant to deepen progress. 36-month technical assistant no den
so say you see technical assistance dia ye patchra ne say uhia mwa ebema niama bia wo say wo ye no uhia obi a obe directive a kire wo kwan a obe faso a obema niama na wo ye na ye kwan say obi a oyare a ye yi ne free hospital abefie ye beka say okay wa befie mo na so ye pep doctor obe befie regularly abehwe say ne dua ne dimu na edro onu say na niama na esia say na ye yi ni free befie no koswana even though obi wo ho a omo be wa wo fie mo na so ye hia obi a wo nimbia ewo yare ni ho a eye doctor no aba beboa sa na ete IMF omo bu ayen omo mayen dru pempeso aye duwi nimbia na omo wo na experience omo wo no ye hia omo for some time no mu enso yensem no mu bu ayen kakra ko pem se ye nantie no ebe sipi ebe sita se na ebe ya omo be ka se okay sisi ade maso wonsa ediwa na antibedu ha afi de ufie kwan ne ko na ye jaw inti sa technical assistant who explaining to the layman no ye hia no say ye pese o meja ye mo say ye betumi be on our own nenso ye hia so be di yechi na se na be ya ye be ye niama e be se na e be fata enu bi ni say ye spending ye fiscal discipline afi ye borrowing ye be hwe say sa niama we nyina no ye no se na se na fata o hwe minister of finance can say adiba kwa ye bo na baso ne ye fiscal discipline say sisi ano enye say ye spend ska keke na mo ye hwe say asa na ye be spend ska no ye be hwe say baby ska ni ko no eye anasa enye now adiba kwa sa nyama we ediba eboa na face kwa bi wo ho a ha adwen a ehia technical support assistant say one hwe here once we are promoting fiscal discipline businesses will be struggling in certain way or the other because already and him say aban bureaucracy e wo say uye aban adwuma uye adwuma ma aban to say contract emresu say yebetia o ka u de hwe niam a wo fem into if as the minister of finance say sisi amedi sisi ya ba say yebe hwe say anti na yebetia o ka no wo be fa abcd mu ya hwe ya businesses be ye adwuma omo be wie nu na omo sika na omo benya say na be ya omo di be toa adwuma ne so na akoye kwantenten into nipa no wa ye adwuma na wie. Now, so our share scanning beba emba identity because I was say FA process A, process B, process C. It was say you make sure say what we are tightening fiscal discipline, which will ensure say start tightening no embe burden and the amount businesses. Into na here guidance na be in such a way say the controls the Minister of Finance is putting in place will not become detrimental to the survival of businesses. That is why we need this technical assistance. Na be baby I will say ye ni here na ye guide ye hu ye be hwe afesu ye see ye pese ye ko bobu sawa mono bibioma o pese o ko ni nteba so o pese o twen ase kakra. I was happy say Minister of Finance can say on rashi and international market let say domestically no ye be hwe ko ye be fa so ye be improving on our revenue and no ye djuma kese pa because ye nim say o man mu taxes tua no e ye dey nti ama nipa kakra no mu tua tax de bia no mu bre nti de bia ye tu tuemu ewe djuma mu na so ye betu mu wie no net salary no na ye kitu bia de because tax be fa nyina nti o say ye hwe sanem na nyina say the challenge of raising revenue domestically no ye be dey na ya improve nti ye see technical assistance e cheche mu nie
whether say Agya Kwama wako no enra World Bank ayi pani ne kan say bi say we hu ne say mame kan say de ye be ya ye be tiasie yi pa say 2022 said ye yesika samu ye niamenti no ene ohu se oman Ghana yesua nyansa anas yesua bibi e de free 2022 de si ye no emu Saudi wani to form now share current finance minister any the way omo run economy na yesua bibi ampa I no betumi agade yen e wokwan befa so e betutu yesika samu no ochina bi no se koba se IMF ni home po a yen kwato menemu se de bribi abesen ko eto mu no
eno krase ohwe a yesua nyama yaka ne nyama yesi yebeye ne nyama e koso no kire se yesua nyama bebre. Let me give you an example. In 2022 Bank of Ghana one institution they made huge loss every year in SMP amount forecast they were not managing well. In fact, Bank of Ghana institution back one say omaino sikasem enko year the institution that comes to support a Bank of Ghana because you cannot afford to allow your financial institutions to be destroyed. And I say ebe ye basa if it says sikasem financial institutions financial system na nya say banks omuni ahode ebema businesses international trade very difficult. Who was Ghana now who pese who top people amano ne cry no pese who issue financial instrument say LC to say LC to support. I make just say BB free Ghana they are supporting. They will not allow. They just say you have to get additional banks to add confirmation about the sana businesses ever capable. In Bank of Ghana comes in to support. Then when Bank of Ghana is coming to support, I will say who the impact on the economy. In 2022, despite the fact that the central bank was supporting, the indicators were still bad. Inflation was still high. Interest rate was still high. And exchange rate too was high. Now in 2025, this president one is said, Bank of Ghana again came in to support the economy. But the difference is the support from Bank of Ghana has indeed reflected in the real economy. In the say, who say inflation ever form pa, interest rate to form pa, exchange rate to form. So these are the sacrifices from the central bank. Sacrifice no more year, and who ban fast. This is the difference between what happened then and what happened now, because that is what we should see. Almost say nyamano a sharp a conform pa interest rate drop it fast. Inflation should drop it fast. The people were wondering, say, about to send inflation and drop it, sir. And the people say, now inflation drop it now, so nyama bo a day. And no, dear, Bank of Ghana wire from dear. The account is statistical service. The baby said, nyama statistical service here, the inflation basket, nyama mudi calculate inflation. Do we have to expand it? Nyama be wa so mudi kan mo fan kan unti na Rebecca say, nyama o say be kan wan ka be ma inflation assessment e kan wan asen kan. And no your different institution to do. Inti nyama we be nyama ya e ma ye be do pepper so aye do. Inti say me ka say ampa yesua lesson yesua nemo me de me challenge ni me fear ni say is it because IMF wa honti and I yet me ya there because normally no we share a cycle of going to IMF now after the government spent 2 terms that's obekwa e hona ye na issue ni ba na person yes na kwasa ye kwa IMF into share NDC free so na MPP ba no na ye wa IMF program MPP super be free so na NDC ba no IMF programs wo so according to cycle inti kwabe na be faso ama wes na no na ehia no na wo hwe this particular IMF program na ya don na nkasa se be ka se ya ye bibi sron konti e na maye every IMF ase no e ya dia external support no doors inti now that we are come to be on our own can we really that is my fear GT pass finance minister no pressure of development as they say I will be complaining about roads we are complaining about development in this area hospital project nibia enyama ye no doors president Mahama person all living legacy nature say nyama na person ye no living legacy no doors I wish you say ye wo sika e be bua yen ama yetuma ye ni nyina na e kwan be so e be fa anya sasika no say na be ya yen put pressure on the economic fiscal space na ve ye be bad say aban no esesa then we are going to go into IMF again. This should be our last measure, our last IMF. It me anka yen set up committee ebe determining against IMF program. Now you make sure say near my IMF no sa committee no juma mo ya no no inti bia ye this responsibility to be ma advisory committee on the economy and I say the value for money committee na yet tie no say na be ya say ma we be boa yen na yanko IMF because who call IMF it is too painful. In fact, say anka previous government no etie yen ama ye call IMF earlier and sana ye call ye at 2023 na anka yen go through the pain na ye go through. Into these are some of the lessons I'm sure say yes ebe guide yen and na technical support assistance was sorted for so na be ya ebe boa yen ama yetimi ACPS ta
ana no pe bedas papa ne wo mre Dr. Peter Tekpe say adwuma dos nso watumi ne acha adwene wo we hu ebripa be santo safro bio na yato enko twetwe so da sipi na no pe
that's
papa. Dr. Peter Tekpe, financial economist and now science policy analyst. On any needing come for IMF. Another day between me see about say na technical assistant no and still you hear or technical assistant no me na mentiase but Matias pa Honorable David T. Von D or ye twifo a team of kwam na sebedwani Waba becoming so na bo akwaba.
Me just me
Hey.
Abrantepa.
You watch you.
Von the D.
Metia me na chi kakra.
Ayo. Ene oto broni ani wa ba ide. Era say akwaba nso.
Me da se me nua.
All right. We dey be sha chef so.
Yeah.
Yehu dia esi ye. Enra me nya kwan ahwe press conference no mo ye no eti questions nkofu bi sa ni anu yi a ba ye no me hu say finance minister e wo akokoduro surunku bi say ade no ye betumi aye but in reality asam no I say asam no ne kanko ene ne yonko who knows tomorrow nobody knows tomorrow and na okwan efa so enye esika no so no say ye ni external support bi abio ye an ye ba be ye ne bi sa say Ibotum ye. Ibituma chop money afidi nipa 1000. Wobre nya external support biya.
Menase. Mama nchia na me nchia me nuanom. Omene me wa ha. Ani woni anya bra ehwe yen. Endra na me DC twefo etimokwa DC. Isaac Kofi Osen odi na woda.
Oh okay.
Enti Kofi ma wa woda papa. Ewrade nkoso mo na omo wadwene kase. I mean, you know the relationship, so me and kind of be ready in on your case. Let me check for Timokwa mine, any ahin for four, what you for Timokwa, tree for mine, henny, any Timokwa mine, henny. Madam Confidence, Munana, Michiao. You see, a baby by ya, your young crow for me, so sad, your friend, you seek a summon to year, as some your friend economy. Na wamo share sikasam no so for 8 years na wo yenyina hu bebi omo de sikasam no ko duru ye na ebre baaya woni abagina amra hye bedwam aka kire yen se yen ko ya mefene yen ko ya mefochina ye proud nation proud kire se ye kan hwi se ye ka se proud a hwi ye kan se also munyina moyedi munsia twi ni o say you're a proud nation. We won't go to IMF today, we won't go to IMF tomorrow. Whatever we do, the baby no young IMF da adichi ya no then crofri di America ko IMF Roma oma say Ghana sika say Ghana enuama japadia ma trese na international rating trese yesika sam no akodru baller so sika sam junk economy trese waye aduane awiam wadidi we woro wonsa bibia okotuguo no ho na yesika sam koduru ye na brade hu ya mmobo ana ye win election 2024 into 2025 no ana ewrade ode mobro hu a ohun ye no edu a ye papa his excellency John Dramani Mahama mu ana oyi abrante a ye frɛ no Dr. Kizel Ato Ba forcing ano ne betena yesika sama no a oye Ghana sikasam fotosamfo na amazingly meno na menim se ai Ghana sikasam ebetutu yie awo ye ne abreso nanso na menim se be kɔ ne ntam saa because we baby na inflation rate war na odisika once ukoto dollar baako a Kwabena na anu ya mekɔ America yi mekɔtɔ ade bi na enka saa bre no a enka se mepɛ ebi $100,000 edi atɔde metɔ ye no a agise menya Ghana sika 1.7 million Ghana cedis 17 billion ansa na metimi atɔ saa de na mekɔtɔ ye no enne no menya 11 billion na me de tɔ de me pesa metɔ no e kire se His Excellency Mahama any ato forcing any Bank of Ghana governor me am bra penny dog womontutu omoye no e de sika 6 billion abehya me botomu a metimi de ya de foforo menim samoti de me kana se de a si yakasa ogie a sikasamu ogie eno na His Excellency Mahama eni ato force de abre Ghana fo sikasamu ogie se wakɔ asɔre ni anya wanya ogie ne wanya fa ho de awurade de wobɛkɔ heaven si yaka ne saa wose onipa no yabɔ na su nti wanya ogie saa ogie no se woba sikasamu ogie no a eno no na nti se eye potokasam na obe personify na obe kase the god of money in our country is Dr. Kizel Atuba Forsen. Woka ho hwe enye ye wobetimi atan no wobetimi aye de obeye bia but his competence can never be taken away from him when it comes to managing the economy of Ghana. You see, sometimes when I talk I believe in the sincerity and the reality of the issue. And intino ewrade adom. Yesika samno esisi yie ena amene mo kase esisi yie. So we adwetini a ene so wo kwa ma no ne akoto ade a woni se sika samna agina to bitimi adwene ahwekwa ekan. You can plan ahead. Wobetimi adwene ahwe kan ya wo sika sama etutu yie nti wedwuma a wo pese wo ye no edwuma no ebeye yie etoso mienu sabu ko bobosia awo bank se de beye edwuma kane no na nsihu a ye de tusu ma wo no wo bediri beye 3 years abeye edwuma ka se wo tuatua no na sika na wakɔgye no wetua mo se sika no amohomo ba mienu miensa aka ho eni ntunu na eye sikasam owuo ahoma ene ye de hye konse ye kogi bosia eni ntina obi ni ho a wotimi kogi sika edi koye adwuma eye sustainable business a ehia ebre se business ne begina. Do you understand what I'm saying? I just completed my anyway. So listen. Eninti ma Ghana sikasam ye poto basa. Eninti no ema edwuma eguye. Enyuma sayi poto. Eneno enam sikasam a ejina nti. Wo koji bosia ewo bank de abeye edwuma. Bosia no nse ho no ewo fom kra. Atoso miensa. Ene no wani efra manone ani Ghana fo a eye adwuma wo Ghana biebie nnwuma eno anya ahotoyem ani enidaaso ewo sikasam mu wo kai brea na Ghana fo aye adwuma bie banks efa nkrofo thousands ewo adwumam na nkrofo a atwame ya ewrade hu ye mmobo a Israel for Misrim for yehu biomi. Wabetna yeso no. Yegugu Ghana for nyuma ya ye nyina gu won nyina sɛ ne nyina na sasɛm sɛ meka na makoma ye me ya kyerɛ sɛ wan na wo hia 9 billion na enyuma ye bie Ghana he nyina wo de hyemu abegina ma Ghana fo anya adwuma ayo ne watimi de trimoden ade akɔpɛ 28 billion de egu sɛ adwuma no wo dwene ho a me nhyɛdan tiaseɛ ɛnenso me ntiaseɛ
sa bank center clean up nsɛm no aya na de ɔmo so ɔmo kan sa ban dada no e kan sɛ ɛbra na mo aban mu no na mo nim sɛ problem ɛte sa wɔ hɔ nti bia so no na ka mo so the same thing dey bia mo so mo bɛyɛ nti sɛ mo de hyɛ mo kon nya de bɛyɛ
Kwabena Agya
honorable
granted sɛ problem wɔ hɔ wɔn yankasa sɛm wɔ mo bɛka kyerɛ yɛn ne sɛ die nti a wo mu gu banks ne sɛ si ye pese banks ne gina so a ade si ye fesika 9 billion Ghana cedis edi shame
okay
ansa na ejina enu nti ye ya ne saa ebe ma Ghana sika sam ato ape nti ye ngu banks no nye saa no ne ka kire yen Kwabena me sira wo se ansa na wo be wie bank ne ngu ye no now we need more than 28 billion Ghana cedis and no dey good banks no enti de ohin nanka wo befa Kwabena so sabre no gina ho na wo take decision ama Ghana wo befa de ye di 28 billion ebe good bank no na Ghana fo ye adwuma ho nyina akotena fie ana se wo de 9 billion be shem the Ghana fo akoso aye adwuma na nyuma atena Ghana so wo ye Ghana near Sabren wona sa to mi hye won sanka de ona obefa o remanim Ewrade hu ye mbobo enne no Ewrade adom IMF ni kire se IMF ni International Monetary Fund meboa wo monyum wo ya ne se wo bepe sika kakra ma wo no woni ahwere abetena wo kon so no ma kire wo sadia wo sika sam no tutu no fafa ni padodo asese wo fa wo ma adwuma mu wo na kire wo na nsen wo kaye a ye fa security service ye mofra ya epese kodi soldier ani police ni de akeka immigration ni de akeka ho no esense ni ye hye IMF nhyehyɛ asenti woni wo ho tumi so ka kire yen se fa nipa 10 mfa 20 na opese wo fa no esese wo ye brewo na wo hye ase enti woni di wo mutumi ni sika kakra odi ama ya ni di tumi ni betena ye konso eni nti ye ni ankasa de epese ye ye no de ntimi ye adan ya ye de yensa kohye owo ensa owo bosia emu menya twi ni o but ye kasa owo bosia nye owo onam fomu ege de owo bie ene nsam e wo ho no won hwe esanse hia won nti obekwa akogi ni saa owo bie bosia enti ye de yensa kohye saa owo bosia na se a owo no betena ye so de ye pese ye ne ye ntimi nye enti ne hia ogie ni fa ho de a abami ye free saa de na se ne ye di ye ho ne etimi aye de ye pese ye no man atompon Kwabena wani sika na nya free o wo mo nso eye bosia wani bo a wani jinsi ho na mom sansi ho no so o mo sanso de tumi betena wo kon so mia o kohye ho Ewrade hu ye mmobo no de His Excellency John Dramani Mahama be chair yen eneno Dr. Atuba Forson ani ne economic management team me maame ene da no His Excellency Professor Opoku Ajiman nana ene da no wo metumi aye adwuma eso ni etimi ayi ye ho afri saa ohye ene atete na se ya yesika samagina bran Ewrade ne dan
Ewrade de wo kan me pese ya hwe adwene se bibi so kakra se wotie bre ne economics ne kasa na o kan se bi wo se no yese ya hwe ho but so hwe a o se ya up to for new 36 month technical assistant or ye illustration bi say I so be Yarda hospital the yare ne mu ye den pa doctor fashion na ama na stable ama sisi no ho aheha no ye na ba fie nti oba fie no wo ma nya ne sabusuafo mo hwe no the way ya de ne tienti no esisi etumia specialist bi abrebia no obehwe se na didie mu no numu no se de so ye ne sa na obe ne pepepe kopum bre a ne ho beto no mo ja no kora
eno no
enti anya ade ne nkonkwe se ade ne yesi ya free mu me ye se dan free mu sa
me da se eno no eya ho brase ani sikasam tutuye mu nyansan ani ye wo atu forcing wo free se wo piti epon si aye hyan ze moja de neba meboa eni nti ye ne no yenya etutrusam ne ahomaso I ye frase nanso it is always good to think together than to do it alone. And ain't I technically no. I mean, ye be kasa mo futuo ye be fa. Yenso ye be tofo, ye be koyeso, but se ade ye di ho. Enti mo hye so. Mo technical advice there. It is good. I'll give you a typical example. Ya na nkrofo bebre kasa given all factors constant no the we are na South Africa wo munya afa hode no wo gya abrofofo no etena ho kakra no e ma South Africa development no e ko soro eninti no we are proud nation. We will not go to IMF today. We will not go to IMF tomorrow. We are proud nation. Whatever we do, what kinds of abrofono. Na no sha tarifiti ati ze de sha tarifiti. No go to Bible every second obeba be kenkan Bible boy. Ah junior, and the makwa share white. Na go to Bible. And na sign na wo wie dwane akotra brochire ohene nukure woman said that technical advice is excellent.
Okay,
say yenyina no I mean adwene ni onipa ba kotinim, and so it is good to take the advice going forward, and that is what His Excellency John Dramani Mahama I applaud him for. No odwene boom, and that is why this economy is doing well.
Okay,
na ba answer na medima no besi no quickly me pese Ghana fo nyina yeti ase se nsuto no wada na dwo na hunhu ya wo sori anopa wo be hu se formal fo ana ye o ya ka kire se economy e wa to force nsem ebe ye His Excellency Mahama nim no no yi no enti adwuma ebe ye ana nkrofo wo mo doubt a se no wada na nsu atokra no a wa sori anopa wo se formal fo ebe ye ewurade ne ye boafo ebe ye na ye nso ene no ye free IMF ase nya kasa o e adwuma yo
honorable Vondi me questions be brought come say me bisa but before hanti no e be sa ko ye koba na menya kwa na me bisa o ye pa na akwasi botweji ni abeka nsa wono nso kan people communication team no ono nso abeka nsa nti no enche e be ko no so na yaw ma memra wo so said yes he can some no honorable Vondi kind of but is that the reality? The answer is a question is say by next year you best start each year car there
principle very good
meaning say ade aye nye afi we no afi be wura mu na be hyase aye enti e be ma responsibility no akosoro and I can support like a beji fi amanone e be se be kokoji fi amone na ka be dane na ka di bia kutua nkrofo ka no says ka no so no odanyafo ato force say we are not ready ye ho pray ye say ye be ko akokoje be se fi be bia de be meaning say de de be ye ho bra ne de betua ka ni nyina no ye nyanyi na within ayo oman mu Dr. Tekpe ka say bi say sikasam etuotua ye den ane enokore so few people in the church of Ghana. You fear you free me. Any technical assistant here wo. And no share your financial status as of mine. And you hold there wa. You bet to me I said ye air koi. And kwa say. Kwa no chinebino. Ebeka sanki huni yanka anke tina mu kakra.
Eja medase BM Yabesha here for near tier for anopray. Ira Vondi, I really admire his linguistic usage, particularly of religion. It's actually admirable to see what you do. Why tracing history, no, from a political angle. So I won't do that. The mayor, the program, and I say, IMF corner a core, then program na home, and what are we transitioning to? Eja my master's back in law, which is financial market. We actually studied the IMF and what programs they have. And programs are morning in no the 2023. Nika say Vondi started by saying we're a proud nation, and which was the commentary. Particularly when the budgets were read, and for us in this studio, we've had the privilege of talking about it, and there are public records of some of the things we've made over the time. In part, we used to say IMF a bit late in the day. In some escalated, but we went for an extended credit facility, which is the ECF. Nebota pa ye nyama mienu akwanu bebre, but nyama mienu na ye ne fapem pa. De di kan ye fiscal consolidation. Fiscal consolidation no sebio oman no sikasem no finance ministry o budget sika wonya ne de o use so ne fie bia no ekra ne sikasem no yes economy nipa miensa ne wom individuals ana ankra adwumako na oman no the basis of economy no obia the same nya wonya ne de o spend and they create deficit and surplus into wonya sika na se wonya sika ye mekania ma bosome ne afini nyina bo ma se na minya ena de na mede de ensunsuno na edam no hefa na menya fi nti mekobobo se na de so akwan ne hospital ne adwumayefo a metu nyina aka na mehwe misika asem nyina kwan dam nti za kwan na ebedam no mebobo se ahyem nti sabose no so echemia baby a individual bobo se na emne na nifi obeton ne dan obeton saa na tie pepepe wo man ni mu nti de dikan in the program ne se kwan me na be fa so a sika e ba ye nsem no ene de ye kwa abonte no ye betutu ni ye se ne oman no and say more than he gets. That was the first objective. But the second objective no ehu hia pa, which was debt restructuring, because baby anaya drew no debt to GDP now above 100%, or it was nearing unthinkable marks. So, which is to say, say minya bosome no misika menya nyina ye apema ka mede toto ho a meka na ameneme inti misika sem no ase miami nyina ya afoforo dia because meka adru baby a mijina kana no enye. So the second key element of the ECF was to say kwan be na Ghana betimi a debt sustainable and Ghana kano ebeba form, which is what led to the very, very painful decisions of DDEP and our domestic debt. 137 billion Ghana cedis was restructured, and I say Omaino taking decisions say Omoa Omaino do Omokano Omaino den Nsabebo Musikam, and it had significant political ramifications. Beyond the 137 billion Ghana cedis, no, there was also 13 billion euro bond, and for commercial debtors. Beyond a mine no, also 13 billion. Based on those hard decisions, things began to smoothing out. Of course, those decisions had significant cost. But those decisions were not part of the reason Ghana it is no, because said Mediobika 100 na me catch and say me to 100 no make you 50 atomic so it makes the profile of Ghana a bit more sustainable. Into the outcomes of ECF are quantitative, and I say Rebecca said GDP so till debt to GDP so about 45, inflation fabra form 11%. Into their target ECF no be more clear.
Yes, so we
say we also we just 70, we also just 60. We into the program is methodical. Say you better say nyama na ya hihye ni na obe nyama na wa hihye no, which is what brought us to where we are. The program is largely been successful because so here baby anaga na FIBA ni baby aye wona obia ni obetimi aka say program na enye successful. Of course na there's been very difficult decisions, and ubisa asembi say IMF paying no yebusa and they say osusu ze Ghana about 17 times na yesia hu nyansa na yesia hu ade a or minister na nim no ka say discipline ni there wo mo nche mo na mu be ya no but on osusu say yesia ade because this program was a bit more difficult. Inti eja employing bebre no in discipline no sebi se me o ha na media apema the adan terminal so the bigger question is, and Ghana sika the government is not spending and BMO our finance ministry, these are all things you must understand that the choice of discipline the entire year sebi because me say apema minkoye de me pebia because say obi pe sebi kwan because mini and it's fundamental. If I can find a way to finance it in a more sustainable way, I should do that. But any concern me go on my because I want some political gains, which is what we saw in some time past. Then to transition to this policy coordination instrument. Actually the program ends in July officially, which is in like end of July, August. So you move about a new program, which is a policy coordination instrument. PC, I know you say capacity and asset technical assistance. Say IMF no. In very large sense, but of course, in many circles, there are huge debates around say IMF IMF. Those are very academic debates that exist. But the point is, IMF economics are now more akukudambebre who author papers who have views as to how our mind me are developing about policy prescriptions. Into the year fimu and 3 billion for 36 months. No, yeah, call another 36 months of basically inspection. And I say, ama policies. Nyama insia and this PCI program nebe. Eja umbama me hokwaya nyama nsia under the new program they become growth friendly fiscal adjustment which is na ye per stabilization no mind no sika sem nkoye it's na ye per stabilize but said you stabilize no nche say you're growing and I know nche say nyama ekoye now ICU now say the oxygen so now temperature and no nyama nyina aba form but aba form nche say wato into the edika in this PCI and say kwai be na ebe fa so a policies be na de be go akwama ebe bo am mind no anwini which is growth friendly fiscal adjustment.
Yes, say yeah I see you near kweno
stabilize
na ko bia fo so wu a say no one stabilize kama afi akamura ye de be ma
very good into policy this program be ma okay yama no para and yama no kuni and I say kuni ni yama no cap bako so that is the first agenda of this new program. The second one is debt sustainability. Kana aba from no kwai men ya befa so akane nsa amini ebiem nti how do we transition into kwai ya befa so ebebu oman a ka ensign may a problem to say there be a problem in 2022 and that there toss me and say fiscal transparency and governance kwan ben dey be fa so e be ma yosem any kwan e fa so ehwe sika se muada ho fine obi abehu bi anya afi na bibi sha ase and so fiscal transparency and governance there toss 9 a monetary and exchange rate policy kwan ben dey be fa so sika se monetary policy dollar eto 11 say MPP for say artificial kwan ben dey be fa so those policy monetary policy issues no ebe sustainable and I say see the requirement offer so out no your policy rate how do you make sure say those macroeconomic figures are clear and sustainable there also mean financial sector stability kwan ben dey be so a bank sem no any kwan fa so nya bosia any sanya mani na to ye any dey twa to economic diversification and inclusive growth kwan ben dey be so a Ghana enyina cocoa nko aso ana enyina gold nko aso ana enyina oil nko aso na enyini kwan ben dey be so a be say nyini no efi akwan bebe so ebeka obia eja I personally find the choice because in 2019 when MPP came in 2017 na Ghana IMF program 2019 MPP was quick to leave the program and yen na able say just like Agya Kwabena say ya fi ECF program ya fi MPP fi program no anche na yehu no so I find it a bit interesting because Ejawunim said now to be a treasurer and I've said it openly in our report. So one of the biggest risks Ghana is about to face is leaving the IMF. So I find it interesting. So we've opted for another program. It's a good thing in part, but it also spells economic sovereignty. Say me ho kwasha IMF program asia say the kind headmaster otomeso, but after going there 17 times. The data, except for Kwame Nkrumah, you 2 months and we went to the first IMF. No, sustainably, over Ghana growth, at least from PNDC in the 82s when we did the structural adjustment program. IMF is largely been in this town almost every day, right? Into the data, and China say at least for the last 40-50 years, yasu ya hoso she, and I say. IMF whether through our own fault and our external shock be so in part no is the admission to say you hear more which is in my view a depart for the finance because you on pen tell me meet me and I think it's a good thing. The other side say IMF because through its policy prescription is that said you wait me aje and me no akasa o na waye because in as much as MPP because from 2017 to 2019 it would always be a shadow said na IMF for her in as much as NDC Becca said between 2024 and 2020 besi me or my you know but you can also never underestimate an IMF ever. But the choice is that Omaino as a sovereign nation and they make a choice and they say mepe omwa and Omaino who can say before bia we as moi or the decision in my be. So I don't think that is a problem in itself. And we must commend the humility in my view. Say NDC has made a choice to say we still need a headmaster in some form. So and give us the policy prescriptions and help us become a bit more disciplined. Because at least a data now for the last 20-30 years no eja yentimisha yehoso yetimi achiche your mind without the help.
Nto omokomba kopenes eno ano. Omoba kote ya sese bebe ya yedre no. Woji di sese de sikasam tutu yesitie wo hwe your foundation stability na ya kan wasem. Are stable. Wo hwe ya ho den a ye wo so oman yesikasam se de sitie na sefo na. We can say, finance minister say we are not in a rush. See about international markets. Akopa busia de aba. Meaning say sikasem gina tuteni na ha ya. The next we business na be aminu ye ni mu dia. What do we do to form? What did say you betumi meet a target e wo sa ehye no sense Sikan meaning be free about
I think the stability is granted. Me also be our studio because Ghana is not stable now. But stability and resilience. Sebi say so sika oya adwuma bosumi bia wo sika obetimi achiachi awoka but yeyi adwuma yeyi adi fi adwuma mu na e no nche say in 6 months time obetimi ato adura onom nti usually resilience say one cadre for any external shock and I say bibi frunku bia ba obetimi agina no the answer is no. Ghana is still very very vulnerable. Yeah, when you say diesel prices say two cedis be talking no. Into na see diesel baby I was to say no. The air cost of Middle East a real problem because energy prices bet me akosoro in significant ways. Trump nam China enra ne na no. Bimu susu say Middle East ntokwa no beba we. Bimu susu say ntokwa na afi no ebe shase pa. If indeed this war in the Middle East escalator, Yeye can get out of hands badly, and I'll put it on record. Energy prices, we can see shocking inflations if energy prices skyrocket because of the price. It's Myanmar fertilizer, more aquaculture, which would affect food. In terms of vulnerabilities, Ghana is still very, very, very vulnerable, particularly because of the Kosovo war, US, Iran, and Israel, and talk about Middle East, and they met me here in how the world is changing. It means to say in terms of Ghana, Sika seems to say there, you bet me come and SNP said we are stable, but we are still very vulnerable to say Sebi or China Bibi bet me see Ama Bibi agency, which is why I mean Susu say opting for another program. For monitoring purposes, and it's a good thing because it's an acknowledgement say Mimi Susu say of all these programs they also about women and niko particularly youth unemployment because on my median age around 21 years. Not even for the working class, many people the numbers are good and it's not artificial. Ghana is stable, but pay Juma to exude the productive capacity of our young people. These numbers will mean very little. In the the teeming youth of our Ghanaians, but it's the 24-hour economy say NPA overnight. There's some loan. There's some loan program for some youth. These are things I think that the next phase of Ghana's development should focus on. Quite many because I know more productivity and growth about my.
Me that's Mame Kokosibo so answer my baby. Na ye hwe Kokosibo so enra na finance minister na me fie nchechero fo hye mu chere say ya out ye ne omo eni busia bɔ ne ho sense bi na mo technical assistance there 36 months, which is about 3 years, right? Na my technical assistant. In commercial mu nyina no say abana bon homoding. But me ti also adwen kire wo.
Agya Kwabena no me fa konya so na me chia abedwafonia na me chia obi biara o hwe. I think say the decan exit ni dey welcomed. Refreshing say ndra yet say Ghana Nyamiadaroma yetimi a free IMF financing program nase. I think say welcomed. So far ye so acknowledge say under the program yetimi making some substantial gains. And also you're welcome. So far yetimi stabilize a few things, inflation near there. Ni welcomed. But you see some my near kanya near new BIA adwen say you're making some gains under the program now vindicates the fact that the program design and architecture was a very perfect one. And the program design and architecture no September 2022 under the previous government. And the program design and architecture no and the negotiation of the program no Emma Ghana for echo or ya obi mu. It is a free exit na say I the first thing me pese me can say Ghana for ya there because we share the program exit and architecture ne ama yenya stabilization any idea. One of the painful enyama you go through as a result of the 2022 IMF program no the DDP program, the domestic debt exchange program. Yenya yenim how na domestic debt exchange program no na si yafa. But Ghana for show resilience. Ghana for bebre na ne the government of the day no anya adwen. And I'm sure say Ghana for bebre so ne me be ya adwen say DDP ya President Akufo-Addo aban year in 2022 through to 2024 and abc say no one of the reasons why in tia your 2024 elections no NPP as a political party intiman succeeded because it was a very painful decision. Ebium the external debt restructuring under the G20 framework no and also aboa ama yeba bedru baby a yedru ene enti no say ne ye ka say because of the IMF program, it may gain some achievement. I think say largely no, it is due to the architecture and the foundation of the program or the program designer, the previous regime. Now, offer, you call the next leg of the conversation regarding the policy coordination instrument, and that's why. I think the policy coordination instrument now IMF they Ghana buying Asha for the next 36 months. That is the next 3 years now. Clearly no, and not just say IMF no still now is going to monitor the policy decisions of the government. They are buying the bia no IMF no be monitor. Send ye beya gains a yenya no. Yen lose gains no. And I say yen go back to baby ye frintia ye call IMF no. Inti IMF ne is still going to monitor the policy decisions of the government of the day. And in my humble opinion, I mean, Mr. say policy coordination na IMF ede Ghana asha ase no points to the fact that ebi na IMF for no omuni confidence with the managers of the economy mu.
Was it a choice?
Let me person be say IMF for no mo se wo mo no French man na se ye na susu say so mo wo ho a ebetumi aboa na say afanu ni nyina na tena se hunu say ade no mo so mo opt there but ye ho na am technical advice ebetumi aboa.
Agya Kwabena, the fundamental point is that the policy coordination instrument of every country if the IMF financing program as an mandatory. That is the fundamental point. However, there are countries omuankasa no omususu say if they are left on their own, certain decisions be making no, ebetimi destroy gains na time share IMF ase no omunyaye. And I'll go with the same example policy analyst now di kan ne kasa enema say I said that why area ohun towa o admission wo hospital yeyi wa befie no ye be ma doctor bia ba behwe wa but then say doctor ni hu say fie na wa ba no wan kasa no ebia o lifestyle bi anase ye jawo kakra wonum ye ode ye se man wiki bab abekwa ko wiki bab ni ade na doctor ni betima ye na adwen say oh ye say ebia uhuato de na for the next 1 year or 2 years ne de ye do beto monitoring so and as a supervision so in my layman perspective or understanding that is what the policy coordination instrument basically means. It you know say okay say pair then it is up to you but for the greater good and to ensure say stabilization now we nya na say gains now we nya no betima sustain no e ne kwan so say obeje sa policy coordination instrument na tum inti ni church mo to by understanding and no and that's what I'm saying say it is a vote of no confidence in the managers of the economy.
But if it's a choice,
because if the managers of the economy
communicating for MPP,
if the managers of the the managers of the economy no the confidence say omo here the monitoring of the IMF. Omo here the supervision of the IMF. Omo here what we describe as the technical assistance of the IMF. They wouldn't have agreed with the IMF say IMF won embe monitor policy decisions. They wouldn't have. Because GDA say one kasa no very good managers of economy no one kasa the clear economic knowledge and economic path of Mopese or Muto say they are going to make the right policy decisions for the country. The nation would not need any monitoring or any supervision or any technical assistance from the IMF. And that is what I'm saying is the policy coordination instrument, the monitoring from the IMF, the supervision from the IMF, the technical assistance from the IMF clearly points to the angle say there is a vote of no confidence in the managers of the economy.
By who?
By
who?
Oh, by the IMF. By the IMF. And in fact, managers of the economy nankasa so no wankasa so omu need confidence in themselves say without the monitoring and the supervision and the direction of the IMF no they can sustain gains na yenya under the financing program. Until they agreed for the IMF to monitor their policy decisions. That is my opinion. Agya Kwabena na IMF in sense ma ye Kenya no endra IMF for ne kan council so aka say Ghana yako IMF I say about 17 times, which is very true. Now here 17 times now yako na it's important to say be putting into the proper perspective. NDC enkwa ako IMF program na say 10 times. NDC enkwa ako IMF na say program na say 10 times. I'm talking about the NDC government under President Rawlings and the NDC government under President Mills and President Mahama. The most recent one under President Rawlings military regime if you make the constitutional regimes under which NDC are being led by President Rawlings are called IMF program I say 6 times. Military ones the end may year film. Cumulative look at military ones there are called IMF as senior about and also about 6 times or so, 6 or 5 times. But NDC, President Rawlings, President Mills, President Mahama, Aqua IMF program na say 10 times. MPP, Aqua IMF na say program na say 2 times. And all the times and the IMF records will indicate
What's 17 times?
Correct. So the military regime is 6 times.
6 times.
Okay. And I can give you the data here.
Okay. But in the 11. And now NDC akumu 10 until now aka 1.
Yeah.
And so MPP kumu 2.
So the military one is 5, NDC 10, and then MPP 2, 17 times.
Okay.
We're a matter of public knowledge. Everybody can Google and check. Okay, the more recent one NDC for a core IMF program last year. It was in July 2009. And then that is 15th July 2009 under President Mills and 3rd April 2015 under President Mahama. MPP in so dear no 2 times na yakono in 2003 under President Kufuor. So the HEPIC program. Now the exact date is 9th May 2003 under the government of John Ajekum Kufuor and at 26th September 2022. But IMF for documentation all the times NDC call IMF nase no and one more reasons into they call IMF nase and all the times MPP call IMF nase no and what your reasons into they call IMF nase. A classical example year 2022. In fact, Honorable Wondi Kano, no the year serious, and he was trying to make a joke out of it. Say, you can say you call IMF, but later you call IMF. You can say you call IMF because economic gains are you free IMF program. Now say NDC for the year come in 2015. You free I say in 2017. Economic gains, agricultural growth, any GDP, and na making gains was here now. The government of the day felt say we were capable of managing Yankasa Yesi Kasem. But here niya nim President Mahama and no Ghana man penny admitted times without number say external factor is COVID-19 ebe high adwin, and it was one of the reasons why in 2022 you call IMF program na say everybody on this table I am sure agrees with me say those external factors ne count my inflation cost. So I agree and I concede say there are some domestic factors and also their doctors never underlying sickness boy as a catalyst ma external factors ninya ahoɔden gyina so. But primarily it is also a fact say the major reason tí a call IMF na say in 2022 was due to the external factors and inflation skyrocketed, unemployment growth, exchange rate ni ade ni ano. And then the call IMF program na say. But in fact, over the KPMG report of 2024, KPMG report was clear say, here's an MPP are buying on then a demonstrated discipline towards the IMF program na say omo projected say in the year 2025 your inflation be do single digit. Time report iba abonte na MPP na na wa abemo ni enya nto abaye na KPMG do omo report ba abonte say here's an MPP for atoto omo nioma despite the fact that COVID ama ahotre abo man nim no. In the next year, no, in the next financial year 2025, the inflation will do single digit. And in fact, almost report nim say in the year 2025, the country was going to witness economic growth. It is a you say nyama bi are stable, you are gaining economic, you are making economic gains. Then I will then again say Ninian is due to the policy architecture and the negotiation and the discipline with which MPP for ye share IMF program no. I say, but unlike reasons I might call the 2022 IMF, in 2015 NDC for call IMF no. I would not want to go back, but 10 years in the reasons in terms of call IMF. And see, what's one of the major reasons why of already Melandia and one of the major reasons why in 2015 NDC for call IMF na social IMF policy document na the power sector crisis was one of the major reasons. Do so in 2015. It was one of the major reasons in Tia Omoko IMF program na say economic mismanagement was also one of those. There were a number of them, but unlike the MPP, and I'm just trying to draw the distinction. Say, and yes, economic mismanagement be, and now say, ebia bibi na akoso, but due to primarily due to the external factors.
Can say. Yanko IMF ne yanko China, we are proud nation. The consequences are dire. Into be abaka se bekwa IMF biano. Ye moningu the Sumbatans and the Sambatans ne san o kansa sam. O kan wie ye no. Here was the then the finance minister. Yes. How long in the take here and say yanko IMF?
Okay, so I think say sa yanko IMF ne yanko IMF China no. Sa conversation started right after the 2020 elections. Time and you recover from COVID, that was when our conversation, say, koso. Because we 2020 election, you 2021 that time you science say you found go born, I shall see a skyrocket, your exchange rate, I shall see koso near the idea. It is that time in a conversation, I shall say, but that is what I'm saying. Say the managers of the economy then felt say they had the necessary expertise to manage the affairs of the economy and that they no more here IMF for MWA. Ejina Mesa ka say it wasn't due to say ebia na economic mismanagement, but a group be no external factors no na many on mine no. External factors na many on mine. Who say President Mahama eko kasa wo African Leaders Program be as a time no your opposition leader our Nigeria, Abuja, Nigeria. He admitted say the COVID-19 pandemic shook the foundation of the Ghanaian economy. This is President Mahama.
But the question I should be saying, I brought the late John Kuma, and no de kako come na she be dwam. Say enya dia o mind be call IMF sabre no. Eno achi eno work no for that time so be kan say. And I'm say dinner bi no moko bibi sa program bi ase. Eno ko kan say Womonko yankwa IMF ne yanko China na the consequences are dire. We're a proud nation, brofo tin. Because say ebro kan sa asem no wie ye no. How long in the day yansa ne call IMF? It's say o kan ye no anche bia ani yete say o my Ghana or IMF.
Agya Kwabena sincerely you bizarre me say how long maybe up a time frame say be 2 weeks, 1 week, 3 months, 10 months. Okay. If I tell you say there was a period no I say no. Unless maybe you now was a period now, but Agya Kwabena
for the budget reading and which was around February when they wanted to do the e-levy.
E-levy.
So this is around during one of the rounds. So this is around January, February, and then we went in May. So
just about 5 months, 4 months.
4 months.
Agya Kwabena, but
history of London, but
Agya Kwabena, the point I'm making is
for and
honorable Vondi Kasano can be a person me free fundamentally, and it is a sema NDC for na can say NPP buy and ye be good banks. It is not true. Anybody who tells you say NPP be good banks, you know, the person is peddling falsehood. It is not true. Honorable, respectfully, banks, you know, the Edikai 7 banks were consolidated into the Consolidated Bank of Ghana. Over the Sovereign Bank, Beige Bank, the Premium Bank, the Royal Bank, the Heritage Bank, the Construction Bank, and Unibank. They are buying here and say your caps our banks see and you're consolidating as one bank. And then depositors are no music at that Premium Bank. No take some mobile demonstration say you're consolidating banks and almost come musica. And then depositors are no musica. Our Unibank, the Sovereign Bank, Royal Bank. One thing that say Omoka say are buying up for musica and I said they have lost their money due to the consolidation of the banks. And so the banks technically were not collapsed. They were consolidated. There is a difference between a bank collapsing or a bank winding up and consolidating the assets and liabilities of other companies as well. And I say a merger. Now, bank Bakope and a 4D app. And look at the 4D app. It was on one casa voluntary folding up. That is the Baroda Bank. It was they were just willing to fold up. Now, over the other banks, UT Bank, Capital Banker, their leadership were taken over by the Ghana Commercial Bank. Enti in Kofa no musika da UT Bank. And then omoko GCB Banker, omosaka musika. In Kofa no musika da Capital Bank, omoko GCB Banker, omosaka omusika. Okay. And other banks say other banks they say First Atlantic Merchant Bank, Energy Commercial Bank, they also consolidated to form they also merged with other banks. Into Jacob now, it is inaccurate. And then 21 billion. The 21 billion was used as
26. The last billion. Official record I saw was 26.
In fact, they even went ahead to about 34. 34. I even saw a report in August 24. I called 34. That's fine. Sasikano, Sika Yedikoku Bank. If Honorable says that Honorable is not being, I don't want to say
what is that money?
But that money, to the best of my understanding, to the reports I have cited, were monies that also went into the recapitalization. What's the banks now? And they say you can dispute me.
Recapitalization, what does it mean?
Good. Recapitalization to say now we are for instance. UMB Bank. Now I think say Bank of Ghana for here na omuhia hoden kakra. Na Bank of Ghana bo omuniska no mo fan recapitalize so that was the same thing that was done, but so obi kase ejakomna me pacho so obi kase ye yusu say sika no edikogu banka ye bizan say fa kwan ben so and ye say sika no ekogu bank. That is the fundamental question we should ask ourselves.
The name no say aban kan say eka wo nyina ye betumi de entira bisa okasa wa okasa recapitalization no, what does it mean no?
Right.
Say nya 9 billion cedis ye betumi e de recapitalize sa banks ni nyina
no mo akoso aye
entira adentina 9 billion no ya fa anye anso masema mo nyina na beba na woma anyo mo.
Would have been working as a bank of manager now.
So honorable
bank manager. No, he's asking a very good question.
Na 9 billion na said so much mo gina no na sa vaccine nyina egina yo adwuma no yanye na mo no ye de sa 21 billion Ghana cedis akọ recapitalization a wo kan wasam no ye de capitalize e bank ben
Jacob na one critical example. Bank back where your money is cut on for year recapitalization was Unibank. Tama government of the day Bank of Ghana who say or one who dey conform now. KPMG report in 2019, and I have a copy of the report here. The KPMG report in 2019 clearly showed say Sikana Yedema Unibank so Mofanko recapitalization. Sikano didn't actually go into recapitalization. This is KPMG speaking. And KPMG for actually share their Unibank for any recapitalization. Because you see, Oma Bank is often recapitalization. It is still the managers of the bank and they're managing the recapitalization fund.
They are not the person young mamtia. Now you had the 9 billion the between they say Jumano. And they could do 21 billion.
Agya Kwabena say unim say
9 billion the best Jumano. And they could do 21 billion. It is a difference now about 12 billion. And no yadi a call.
Agya Kwabena, once the banking sector cleanup, there was a process. First, they started with some banks, and mobile banks need be actual. And later, the banks need be ever count. After Bank of Ghana 4 years or more crackdown, or money, banks need be count. So I suppose they are 9 billion now quoting. I don't know where you are quoting from sincerely.
It was a report.
9 billion now. And I make us say, Pacho Mama Nusi, 9 billion now quoting. It was for some specific banks. But 34 billion now, you can 17, and now 20 something billion now, or now you can 17. Was the total figure at the end of the day in a core into the entire, to the best of my understanding, recapitalization?
Recapitalization. IMF.
No, you said for me, I'm better Mobuana in your answer. Can of write the last statement to make was me. Me. No, okay. Oh yeah, May 2023. No, so they young IMF. That was the last statement. July no man, yes, they negotiate with IMF.
Okay.
Oh no, Jacob, that cannot be accurate.
Okay.
Because IMF ni 2022, but he's referencing 2023.
No, IMF program was 2023. The budget for 2023 was read. That was where the problem started.
Yeah. Okay. So Ken, on the 12th of May was his last statement on young IMF. We are a proud nation. Didn't been our year in our class and also white. Okay, we are July and IMF. And let me tell you something. Now, still a cabinet meeting, no. Cabinet in Sambia or in the country. Not stand now years in the IMF. No, you can't catch and Mr. President. If you listen to your brother, this country will collapse. As a president or so about IMF. No, pro kata because no, I be with the IMF, I will lose election. Into the Muslim no, as not say, but young kata do. Into you a cabinet meeting or Mr. President, if you listen to this, your brother, this country will collapse. And Sana President Cook over the IMF. You talk on national way, what catch and I'm don't explain Ghana for. On name is Alan Martin. As some of also there, you see, since I leave IMF, young Paboy the young IMF bill. You miss on the Ibn as an young IMF. So the ministry too is to them has an Anna.
The idea about eco bribia.
No, yes, yeah, no. Oh, you saw, I'm going to inquire IMF bill. But that's what I'm going to say. Now, I better be to now. What can I inquire IMF and acquire IMF? Nzeme Basa. No more IMF. The economy be has suffer external factor. International President Mahama the first term, you acquire IMF. But young cop in your DDEP. No count million. Abenia, which Chomukoya Kufa no eba or me on Abenia, which Chomukoya. You can't want to say me. Nzeme Basa. No ma, Ghana come no side. A conye busa for swinging home. That time in a financing of Franken of Fatina, we're going to catch a bruching. We have a busa biara. No bank, they do often data banking. Only a commission.
Exactly.
Commissioner will woman see. Oh, but what's an on Nanche. Painful baby was Iswa or to Manaba Bodri. I do so if you want to do. No, we'll work is another tree or Shansana will who. So how did they do or whom or above? It cannot write as it. I don't know where she put for who by force no soon. Because no one for soon. It's Dama a needless, senseless borrowing. Busa bond for so behind home. The Busa poor was here then. Consumption and corruption. Consumption, you borrow for consumption and corruption. Into that, if you don't, Actually, corruption cases in Yama now to work with Ghana. What's a level when you are no more for some people as I know we're going to Ghana. Only as a crowd. I penny on said all your crowd there. And I'm happy the kind of finance we say we have in the person of Dr. Atofosa. The Aussie, since I'm paying compo, but I'm paying between a couple of even though she's able to me about the young boy, she's yes, internally what we can do first. As though today, wasteful expenditure. The ever security expend them why being ejuma. Today I was going to build down my two kutamuna $97 million. So can I build down my two kutamuna that our promise that go for this is an aman. If I kutamuna $97 million.
You go for you baby there.
And so
Ghana
sir, the minister think about it too. Convert $97 million for the citizens at that time at the rate of 15 cities. So we will tell you that on your $97 million times 15 cities, it be about 1.45 billion. 1.45 billion.
That's almost a third of half of what we got from IMF for the 3 billion.
So it is a engine who them there. Say amana wankasa erebobusa ran pan fires papa se kan bi so eyakuto amuna na yakopan wa ma David we see that asora amana akodo obumo asora amana yakopan David mpo so I found a man after my heart onu mpo wa mo we see asora na man omo Solomon o see na kofa do bisa asora da man yakopan
wo ka fa bu ba free Israel
na
ewazi mo so na Ega, or very careful, or rather, because for Ghana food was that time, no, so most Ghana food a bread. Coffee at home, no, Christy, that they don't go for Obama until I go for Obama as a mother. Because it won't honor God that a country must suffer for a house to be built for him. You go for all of the Amazon. God will not allow it. It's first one. Boy, na system behind him, no corruption, or dating, and now, good first, mismanagement. About 4 billion to spend, more than 4 billion Ghana cedis to spend. Dr. Kwabena, economist, so unemployment for Ghana, because 7 years, Ghana, Mabu, year, about 4 billion Ghana cedis, so, in fact, over 4 billion, Bible fund to 4 billion. NAPCO 4 billion. Ọtí náà bíkítì èbúrò ẹ̀hún èbúrò no ọ̀sẹ̀ mẹ̀sẹ̀ èbúrò mọ̀ màrí mẹ̀tù àmọ̀ màrí ànáṣọ èbúrò mẹ̀sẹ̀ mọ̀ mẹ̀dùá sẹ ọ̀sẹ̀ mọ̀ ọ̀kyì mọ̀ mẹ̀rìà ẹ̀rì èbúrò náà yẹn náà ọ̀sẹ̀ mọ̀ ọ̀dẹ̀ sì dùá èbúrò bẹ̀ fìfì wà dọ̀ọ̀sùn ntì bọ́ọ̀ dẹ̀ táìmù dẹ̀ ẹ̀rì èbúrò nsọ na èbúrò wọ̀ hɔ bọ́ọ̀ dẹ̀ ọ̀kadà sá then check 4 billion and friendship productive investment to the agriculture industrialization na expand Ghana economy no mambabu no nye edwuma oye sustainable edwuma oye permanent sustainable decent salaries but Dr. Kwabena ye there economists of all time akufado sina enkopanzi economy adwini nya za asha na adwini mo ye there university graduate a cut no office ya ma mo 700 Ghana a month eyi was bobra eyi was kopo onyanam eyi the mazi was kopo onyanam university graduate wa ko school wa bra e ma 700 Ghana cut no office every month mo 700 Ghana it is can upper amba 700 a month na TNT na po wa discuss
na no ko Dr. Kwabena na ya
no from an office was managed from Dr.
Kwabena na president of the time and
not was Dr. Kwabena's policy, it was managed from his office.
It's not true.
It is true.
It's not true.
It is true today. It will be true tomorrow. It will be true forever.
It's never true.
And you come and tell me that it is true. Dr. Kwabena himself has come out to say it was being managed from his office.
It's not true.
That's when he said at that time there close to 4 billion.
It's not true.
Has been spent. That time when you
it was a government initiative.
There was a secretary for NAPCO. There was a NAPCO secretary. There was a national coordinator for NAPCO.
He was the chairman of the economic management.
Was managed from Dr. Bawumia's officer.
Trying to be mischievous. It appears that UP hear more harm to MPP than NDC. No information.
No, the point is that
you do not create information. Only information.
NAPCO was being managed from this man. I forgot who was in charge of NAPCO. From Bawumia's office. A Muslim name or something like that. I've forgotten this. He was the one in charge.
I'm talking about the national coordinator for NAPCO.
So
I'm talking about the national coordinator.
Because of Agya Kwabena.
It was never managed from Dr. Bawumia. It's not true. But make your point. It's not true, but make your point.
You see, what's the economy to the point today? What do baby? Not Dr. Bawumia. I'm going to the economy to go on if you not called digitalization. Digitalization is not taking car teams. Why yanzu me bia man zama no mo page ama osle usumpo wa man international award wo no package me no zama Dr. Bawumia se nyi bibia so muza so you for campaign until from the economy no ebeka ya 2024 Dr. Bawumia one bu economy wo asem on campaign bia do te uki bi say there when the fundamentals are weak the exchange rate to expose the one in media and country bi na so be ya asem no how if I do everything now what will I need to go? So what's the economy now? I can't do. Every one special delegate conference. I got to another party headquarters. Again, it's been another. Most economy was say is CCRY. You're being done. Also, me to me the next president of Baby. That is how they destroy Ghana's economy. So Dr. Bawumia ran away from it and now do disown the economy. To me, it is a end of it. I also that. Economy no na maybe I fire no go go ni zorka president go na ifi Dr. Bawumia o go na ifi economy no mom abenti ya president dey jumo me man matter see sentira wo sheda na opodo wo ya won YouTube ifi azem oye Dr. Atifoso ebi na MP before sheda la oye go for dami onye bi kaka say we dey won hwe no wo ma force na aze no nche won ni ntum na aze man matter sa yeah, my farmer. Let's say go school. Let's say, who then my farmer will get a mango. I smell what boom bar. I don't feel mango could be a wild base. I want to what to move on. What for? I put that you are tomorrow mango mango. That's the first thing I want. It's not what targets in a show. What no, the selling say you up a bent your wabo. Only Dr. Siama governor. Would you man able to see Siala? Me say, my welcome pa no on no ma. Amma in and quenche there a money butuma konenyum what's it who they if IMF and Akufo-Addo na can offer to chas all bombosa na chas they used to scar by heart no penteme for IMF because no put we don't say boss come but Akufo is there IMF is now so shamudo but that glass house, I'm coming to live in a glass house. So now you can see me. Because you have to be checked.
Not doing it, you mother.
Oh, Sunday one check one into what pentano if you want it. And then within a short time, 2019 is the IMF. 2023.
Me akeshem
you.
With them all
over. But this time, us no me IMF. No IMF. Me if you was to monitor them, guide them. Mama court Sibia. Because the first thing this government needed to do to stabilize the economy. Now after stabilization, also there's one easy pattern do. The stabilization pattern, as you know, to do the pine. While you look at expansion and growth, and then that's how you manage the economy. Now, so IMF is going to help us with this technical advice to keep our leg on the paddle. Yes, on the paddle, while we try to accelerate reasonably. So what we have to do now is to now look at expansion. IMF cannot help you to expand the economy. They can only help you to stabilize it. The expansion is up to one person homegrown policies. Ever my economy no work on him. Until today, agriculture. There were 4 billion American yen up causing Zama. Fresh agriculture, fresh industrialization, fresh tourism. No, fresh and Zama about my economy no way. I'm a man when you do why. Already as a worker, instead of time there. This government must focus on the private sector. Abenejuma. So obi in retirement and then one boy office for waha in ejuma ya abenejuma. Now private sector no say me nyoko ho. And I say the want special dispensation of loans. Loans are about 5% interest rate. If the normal market rate is let's say 15%, you select certain companies in Ghana. Companies are way into export. You know, them companies see one product of a high demand war outside. So instead of giving them a loan of 15% or 20%, you know, now let's give them 5% so that they can be competitive on the international market. So if they have cheaper loan, cheaper electricity, and they can expand production, they will need more hands. That's how we create jobs. And I'm a companies who are also the cranes do Ghana, that's about Ghana ma, or say Ghana economy no. Yes, you select companies, about 20-30 of them. These are import substitution companies. We want them to be competitive against Chinese products into the market. Into one cost of production, which will produce cheaper than even what is coming from China. By so doing, it will reduce our import. It will create so many jobs. What we do now is that we create jobs in China. Anytime we import more from China, we help the Chinese companies to expand, to employ more Chinese people.
But you're fancy.
Anytime they are you can live in China, no. May in there, you bought China, ban more freedom, or one them to China. Or ban the man, Chinese will only do my young coffee, you do my year. Into May in there. I said, you get special dispensation. Instead of me, Mary 24-hour economic policy. Ghana, a problem in there. You can have beautiful policies, but implementation. If this are banned or implement that policy, I've read them. And I'm happy to say it because time I'm a policy now, I see the great transformation plan. Some maybe we actually they glean something from our plan. Fantastic policy, Mr. President. Whatever it will take for you to implement that 24-hour economy, but now them are target agric, industrialization, tourism, and other sectors of the economy. Generally, because every economy, the essence of the economy is to help the people to get job to do. Because money be able to puna or your juma what trazin a tanazin a trazin. Inti ato what achievement is more uti because we there say ya wasu bi nya ho for so.
Be that see. IMF ne ho se bi na be si wa.
I think you
the best because your time no you were just about 25 minutes.
So
yeah.
Jamami
so 1 minute let me 1 minute e dia e be do asen bi so na sa won kan na de no aka we you be call harassment krata mampani nkan mampani every day Dr. Bamade by say you tete pe for na yi you bring so nti na e be mbeku say 5 minutes e be kan no wasa 5
exactly
e be di ho enkomo kwasi e me say ye di san komo ya abama nkrofa kan wasa ne ne de kan bia ye kan wasa mufia say aban no tata mo na utie nkrata na eba bontina na say aban no the executive any investigative bodies no any and of course as elements within the judiciary and akabum and tata mo munina so pa ne say especially when it comes to the elements within the judiciary. Mnabe na ankoye entia mo kasa 5 minutes.
I'll deal with the whole issue of political intimidation in general. Yes, single out the judiciary and I say
let me say no any other ones no they from so be no my
okay, but me 5 minutes no 10:34. But me for 1 minute and be free hold on. It is not true obi obeka say Dr. Bawumia office and roll out NAPCO program libya as UP Ebu Backman Akabiana. It is not true. When you say me 5 minutes ni we ani aye mo di IT mo beti ma ye mo consensus mo respond e di abunya abutre na me nka myself. It is not true. Say Dr. Bawumia office na rolling out NAPCO. In fact, the NAPCO program was launched in May, I think 2017, by the president himself. And appointed a national coordinator. Say on NAPCO ne so. Inti NAPCO our regional directors, our district directors, or more national office. And so it is never true, say Dr. Bawumia office and a rolling out NAPCO. And the government of the day and a rolling out NAPCO. Number 2, Ebo Backman sought to say from 2017 to 2023 call a free IMF program that's in 2017 and 2023 yes and call biom na just say abina mbon home modinti na under 6 years yes and call biom but na the ref say or the back count so say from 2009 to 2015 2009 abina call IMF ase 2015 or some call IMF ase na the same MDC administration the same President Mahama who was vice president then and later be president in the same administration as here also within the period of 6 years and so called IMF and to make it look as if say a novel a BC that it is also something that I wanted to clarify. Now the final thing I wanted to clarify regarding IMF issue quickly also has to do with the fact that sort to portray say you call IMF due to obia no wabon anase aban na say na eni madwuma also yenti ne call IMF. The leader of your party, the UP party, was in cabinet. Tama cabinet decided to say aban ne call IMF. He didn't reject it. The trade minister then, the respected
he advised the president to go.
Was a member of cabinet. A bra cabinet decided to say omo call IMF. He never objected to it. He was happy with it. In the no better na say o ka say na aban no aban mu nkofo no ma bon enti no mo call IMF na. Leader of your party, he was one of them. Into can say no so can we pay Ghana for IMF in 2023 mo. Enti and also you say man person for now quickly on the political intimidation now. It is clear say aban we mu nkofo. They are emotional people. Oka o masema na o makoma ba. Aban nem pe criticism. Aban nem pe so bia beka na asem. Aban mu nkofo ayo mo hu se o mo ye nana ye nkayasem. Wo mo asem pe ye besuma NI before the tuo ene amokas aba bebu fie acho. Ye chewa ni ama bail conditioner untimi ndiso yetimi me ebinim bail condition hu. Ye do court nso a ni ama remand 2 weeks 1 month uti anye yese abro nye dia na anu ye de ne call remand ya man remand till the final determination of the matter. Na chese asem no ye the 5 years ni ebedi asem na 5 years ni nia no under prison custody. And you know, some yoma we nia ekosu nia no, you could clearly see say there is a romance between the executive arm of government and the law enforcement agencies. Say political opponent enkwana yentiomo so no more use section 207 and 208 of Act 29 of 1960. Na section 207 and 208 in Ankasano. Legally speaking, I think says we have to have a real look at it. Because Ambrano was not passed in 1960. It was passed somewhere in 1863 by the British colony. And as Ambrano so no pass across British colonies to suppress persons or call for independence. 18 no passes Ambrano. So the law was passed some 133 years ago. Now so na government yenya mampania or say obey use Ambrano to silence political opponents. And it is a matter of law. Say obi ka wasem, say Agya Kwabena ti na say me ka say or a political journalist. Na say Agya Kwabena feel say me say a political journalist and also a biased journalist and no cry. Your remedy lies in a civil action. Say Agya Kwabena be sue your court say me bu na nimas in the right of right thinking members, the minds of right thinking members of society say me kwesi bo me say Agya Kwabena a political journalist or say a biased journalist. you know, or they may call court for defamation. But your remedy does not lie in a criminal court. Our criminal jurisprudence has no foundation to protect the reputation of people.
I agree.
Because answer na yedo be court say what committed criminal offense. It is construed say you have committed an offense against the whole nation. Anything that your minor the republic, you know, and they do court for a criminal offense committed. And I wholly don't subscribe to the politics of insult. I wholly don't subscribe to the politics say obi be kaso etiobi. Now so obi akase tiawa. Your remedy lies in the civil court. If you are brought your charge sheet, I am a law firm upon criminal associate ne counsel. I am very well vested in the matter.
Okay.
If your charge sheet now, Agya Kwabena can be demanded for the benefit of the charge sheet. That's fine.
Honorable Bondi. My can't be a bind. Now, we baby say, and some who do Misha Bakubi and Rose at Abbey. So be I you be bamboo poy bibia. Me who need to say Wakasa ma. What does that mean? Ma. Into ma, me do any, me do any, ma. Bamboo in the Juma. The in the Juma, say bamboo na me do any.
That's not what we need so.
Ma. Nkora de ombe yidi den wumu.
Me das.
Mo tata won we nsem bi enyen nsem na hiri no makokwachi nsem enyen hiri no makokwachi the date na mo yesa. Ese mo na mo ye. 5 minutes.
Me das. I don't want to go back to economic issues and they are settled. Say omunya de entie ya settled. Menua Butchi. We are lawyer ni. Me pa chewo. Asama abro nyetna ne fidie so kekan ya no. Ubeke biana.
Eno na nka mebe koma eja ma me time no.
I meka there be no.
Even don't mean mama option to my options to question that will be me. Over some answer about my time ni bi na me answer.
Wo mu di abronya echi. Na bi lawyer ni, me lawyer ni. Wo mu nyina no. These are fine gentlemen. Omo nkasa asam no. They will never do that.
Then abronya ka.
Adentra. Wo mu nim say eye Sebi, ayo on my boy asam to monka. So now shouting that a judge is a political judge. Manokra adasumena so.
And is that a criminal offense?
No, akofa saka shenit boto ashenit. And what
much are they bottle?
Hold on. No. You see, these are very serious issues. Yeah, see, throw be my lord.
I said they are material, no, maybe it's synonymous to.
Obi, you are Fred Jade in my lord. Sani pano, obi to me as someone bravo forever.
That's true.
Now what to me kotina radio so. I see ye de kutukuo na ahye ni tri. No ya manyoni. Oh here, ubaka. Wonka. Na bi, wonka. So why are you glorifying and pampering a person who is behaving like that? Listen, you see, so be a baby nanu etwemu. You can't say the etie nanu etwemu no. No be a die na. You can't say the etie enne. Inte men hwe de ACC wo ye ne wo opposition said the modi ye no. Men hwe to extend say attorney general mpu etumiko free witness se brana betwan pro egu obi so ne mfa ne nhye mato force ne mfa ne nhye mato ne general no ye se oye lawyer ne amebu no wenim se want to mean kofa obi a wo di asem etia ne no woni ne point me nkasa wa brana lawyer ni ho na otumiko free ne kukuem se enokra na twa asem ne nyina nso no mo abreso mu ye we nyina ene no mo ankola we ekeka de omo keken ya modi echire no mo ankasa mo nka o na ade na mo so wo mo so
ka 1 minute
share de aka me hobe so
sabe kai say o de na kai me so me kai
Kwabena ka dia wo kan sesi ya wo ka kire obi a wo ye na dwuma ye ne afa na dwuma mo say ye police ni ye prosecutor ye judge ni ye we na atime ka kire ne say dia wo ye say wo ma that is threat me boa anya threat you be do juma.
Ubabron didn't say that.
No, Coca na America.
Yeah, there's a video of Coca going.
What you are
saying?
Missing that. You've not seen. Look for it.
I'm sorry, but Prince,
because say nipa Coca no. Say nipa ni ejano. So onko free a. Enye yie. Hwe wonim. Sensuo betwa. Emframa na dikan yo. Bo hwe na muna husu. Bra ni e won kolabre mo ye kwa haban mu no. Sensuo no ye sam papa beka so sensuo na nto. Ye nyanti koko ne kakra. Oh, yanti kakra. Wo ba hwe no. Nsuo be quiet sa na dia be fite ni ebu efu. No afi wo be krokro ni ade. Nsuo na amuna no. Ya hwe yi a wo bi papa no threaten ne sa no. Wo bi maame no te de ye me ya ne se. Kodua. General Secretary Kodua na bi ni dia keka ho no. Hwe mo nka mo yes because when you say enye na dia enye no na enye you see the right is right wrong is wrong na ben na mo di wo machi no mo ye de mo ye nu hwam akoda mo na fetie politics wo ho wo dwene a wo ye ade a ya kai wan kasa wo ho abronye bebia wakɔhye nei wo yire ne wo ma wo mo a wo ko ama wo mo se wo ma president a ayi no ya wo keka nsɛm a wo keka ne wakoda wo mo de obi. We don't think about ourselves. We just go and do things just the way we want to do it. And then have the only number. So too many. You are the state. Share your power.
We don't answer them about.
Why trying to get the state to show him power?
The law is showing him power.
No, but
and you are not about the law. Neither am I about the law. The law is showing him power.
The state is showing him power.
Can't we be decent in this country? Can't we be decent in this country?
5 minutes is up.
Video na can't want some social media say CI no. Ye money ye tia some free na.
Kwabena bona hesa wo beta sa asem ya.
Sani odi obi ani no. Me maka to me. Sani odi obi ani no me. Me tna wani je super wo kom apa wo be hu. So wo ma wo school. Case aye hu ohene a odi atem wantumi antunifu. Oba report obi o hyiwi. Oba report you afa no. Ye do ha you are already taking a side. Say we NDC ni. Okay. Say police is divided. We understand. But you know you have a family. And you are just an officer, a civil servant. What you say? Tiasie. You tell me who do obi ani no. Me maka to me. Tell me who do obi ani no me. Me tna wani je super wo kom apa wo do hu. So wo ma wo school. Case aye hu ohene a odi atem wantumi antunifu. Oba report obi o hyiwi. Oba report you afa no. Ye do ha you are already taking a side. Say we NDC ni. Okay. Say police is divided. We understand. But you know you have a family. And you are just an officer, a civil servant. What you say? Tiasie. The battle has just begun.
Video ya social media na pese e body si asem so. Say utina obi fa hodie so na say o kan simple o time obi ani.
Say police ni NDC ni na wa take side. Me ho na mete.
Eti me so
assume that is true about your boy you know what assume that is true about so na say boy ya there that's an officer of the law.
Police na ka say we police ni e no san ka so hin bi kura na obi onu wi ni hu samsam bebre ansa na okoka say wo won ma wo school
ma no so school
Anna,
can I ask a question before you proceed? Respectfully, just a question. Can this video be authenticated? And I was say, I have not seen it. Stop that. So I don't know if you can authenticate it, then we can speak to it.
Stop that. And I'm poor worse than this.
Ebo, UP. Or mine,
NDC next now.
I said, we are kind of kukum. Ebi can be drum. Baby adro no. Any somewhere ekoko. Any the eba, any the guso ba, any the beba the enim. La ye to in ebe boy.
Ija. Uraho. I've been MPP member before. Me youth organizer for 8 years in MPP. or Cape Coast constituency. Damazi or alien to MPP. Damazi or alien to MPP. As a fufra or Waba party ma, I am one. na adwin de mpanyinfo wo party particularly one flag bearer Dr. Bawumia so otu on fo a nje consistently mo fa mo be mo ye ya panyin ewofie na se ntuwo mbofo a wokwa abontina na wokwa aboa na wonu so ban deze no kofu hu
kawasem we nye Dr. Bawumia asem hu no hye MPP ata
se itu on fo na se kono wuzu won hunya enyimnyam no ibi kan na se ntu on fo na se wokwa na wenzi won hunyi da mo rekodu ya enyim go ase no bi kan
na nipa no ka asem no hwe no hye MPP atade ana
nde koka
na video no ka cannot even authenticate
nde koka oye
the video cannot be authenticated
eja asem bi wo ho no ka yezin ono kwa
ye boba
but also dey ka enyim de the mass in chonya asem until Dr. Bawumia issue statement Dr. Bawumia issue statement madam asebi o pray one of Dr. Bawumia Dr. Bawumia no is chairman of Ghana Police Council for 8 years. True. Police Council on what na police fu na want to do. True. Policy direction BB on no schedule for 8 years. True. Yan sha dama 8 years period na e ba asem na kodo Ghana dama police brutality na police e won sha asem na kodo Ghana. In babunum pa was sorry there were demonstration against Galamsey or say nsu or say ni kwa or say ni fama yaji or say o kunkrofo in Bible no yin panyimfo was sorry there you be demonstration against this Galamsey, you know. Dr. Bawumia police council chairman no police phone about 50 in a single day 50 young men and women were arrested, detained. Some of them were remanded into police custody. True.
Do you know Dr. Bawumia na mom effective arrest na?
See, me come and say some e ka say man kaso. Maka cho asem kokokei. Maka say ke Japan o ka say why than me kokokei.
O kasa tama me kasa no.
Listen there. Me kokokei, ma o ka check in Japan e chere o one go ban sana. You do check na me kokasa.
No, Jacob na he's referring to my person.
No.
Men kasa asem.
No.
Now you are referring to my person. Men kasa asem. Look at my person kasa asem. But I will not allow you to say that against Japan. I will not allow you to say that against Japan. I will not allow you to say that against Japan. I will not allow you to say that against Japan. I will not allow you to say that against Japan. But you say that what of fun your market come video say here. Now I want to now reference. I have never said that. I have never said that. I have never said that. I have never said that against Japan. I have never said that anywhere. I have never said that anywhere. I have never. I have never said that anywhere. And I'm telling you, I have never said that.
No, Dr. T.
5 minutes after 50 seconds.
I said that.
Kawasem.
Mohammed on TV program.
The Bubakma, what about
Dr. 16 months in MP before 11. Na police will take one. 2020 elections. Ghana for 8 now we were born in true
under free speech. Context is free speech.
Free speech. Police council chairman. Ghana for 8 now we were through movie. Election time. Council chairman will make statement to Biala. Police council chairman. You put for so maybe the car in some ginger police for China. All one back on for Susan.
Bankman, your analysis is completely misguided. Let's talk about the police for the shoot to Nipakrona now. What you are alleging wasn't committed by the police service.
It was a security
service. It wasn't done by the police service.
It was a security service.
And for linking it to Dr. Bawumia is a completely misguided analysis. Dr. Bawumia investigator. Dr. Bawumia investigator.
He was the chairman of the police council.
Dr. Bawumia investigator.
He never made
your analysis is completely misguided. It's misguided.
I'm not catching on that.
Your analysis is misguided.
One pack of
misguided.
The program one pack of
how can I misguide
misguided statement? So the point
so you want to swim in the pool of ignorance, misguided statement. We cannot allow you to do so. Ebo Bakman, you are fine to
You see, constitution now guarantee freedom or right to speech, you know. The same constitution or guarantee right to demonstration, right to economic whatever or economic rights. The same constitution. Until we can't say that. So we can some less on your police future now. On or as a board. Then when we demonstration, no police future now. There's nothing wrong with that. This one, I'm looking at the hypocrisy of the former Vice President Dr. Bawumia.
No, you cannot say that.
No, that's hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is there. We are chum. Only there. I chairman of the police council. No, you didn't see anything wrong with police arresting people for demonstrating against JLC. You didn't see anything wrong with people dying. You didn't even make public comments. I remember during this media encounter, or people said, I'm questioning. I said, how? Okay, I'm not going to find out to see what is. I'm not going to. Can you imagine? Chairman of the police council.
It's not even.
In this country, Lenda, Nkofubi, why and Zaman here, or Kasa, will make comment on here. There's a positive one from Bakonda. Issue statement. You are even threatening there. When they come to power, they would. When are you coming to power? Donna, when are you coming to power?
Me that's it. Yeah, sorry.
To force engineer.
I said, or may I back say money, a man you say, a kebi, mammy kebi. Say, be a bibin koyi, a war, ubia famua. Me who say, Obibeka said, Dumso is back. Na ye back watching. Me who says, sign it here, dear. Me who need to say, also be dressed as some on the Facebook wall. Say, Dumso is back. Na nuti ya kwa watching. Say, be another before Frobi or Honey, you dear. Fine. Na ye share comments are nkrofo emane nsem efi nkrofo no ba bi wo ho a nokure ni ne ka no ntumi ensa enkankora mane eniyi sane etete yen
ejameda say again my me fact time ni be nti some because I think for educational purposes is important. Ejama sendo chat from is a BBC article a Tracy IMF Ghana IMF since 1966. It's Masende's table now. Over from May 17, 1966, I called the first one. Since 1992, there is June 30th, 1995 to May 2nd, 1999, which was an ECF program. There's a 1999 to 2002. There's a 2003 to 2006. There's a 2009 to 2012. There's a 2015 to 2019. And then there's the 2023, which is just ending. So just for purposes of education, I think it is important to say that. Mr. Susan, who you also say, Becca said, the PCI program is not mandatory. It's a sovereign choice.
Yeah.
And because it's a sovereign choice, it cannot be a vote, my view, it cannot be a vote of no confidence. It's actually a governance decision to say mihiamwa. So I think that is also important to make that point. Having made those 2 points, Kasibotwe, yeah, I agree to some extent. I mean, as a lawyer, and Makawa Fide so pay, even at the peril of the excesses of free speech, I personally will never aid any government who wants to use the relics of some of the colonial rules for purposes of curtailing free speech. Because in Koma ye do a hanging no say so could do the beer to me be the bar or Becca say Sauka Bibia any da he can use those elements of the law against you. In that sense, Mr. Su say for purposes of speech should not be criminalized in any sense. So Ususu said there are real elements of other crimes. Say the video yeah boy, there are other elements of other crimes. That's a different conversation. But speech in itself should not be criminalized in any sense because said yo amaimuna ayafano ne fapem say you bet me didn't come out without anybody fearing say me kasa or mine to me and so to that extent we should all condemn any element of any state seeking to criminalize free speech and free expression. Having said that and having agreed with him on the principle, it does not mean some of the elements and some of the speeches being made does not constitute crimes in certain sense. Even beyond the law, no, I think we must condemn some of the language being used. Be make us say any concern of mine use or mine to me edi sikasa boa no kwan no and just say be obeno mo adwen no aka de ope bia. But I think say, and this is again say MPP Betia, MPP has had a brand for a long time. Meaning, it was people who associated with the party had a certain imagery. And with no disregard to anybody, I say this very humbly. I think say MPP should reconsider the brand, particularly for Dr. Bawumia, whose brand is authentic, at least in the sense of what the MPP brand is always meant. If MPP wants to dilute that brand, that's also a different conversation. So MPP per se or chair says sebi ni how the party is be a nya catch for party be ma. And also on the political effect. So if it's a strategy, then by all means let it be. But if it is not a political strategy to posture as what they are posturing, then it is spoiling the authenticity of the brand of MPP. Sebi. So ultis obi kikam obi ano bro so anase open temato nensa na sebi adwoya felino. Right? Say open tema sebi nyansa nyant nkekamu. Nyansa ya adwen any the sequence of the logic. Say no failure na fe atone sebi akika ne ebo so. I don't think say the party in MPP has gotten to a place what it needs is people who just do political theater and all the things. I know say maybe the learnings are from people like Kelvin Taylor and people who they think were part of how they lost the power. But I think that there must be a method to the madness. And and again, this is not law. MPP must ask the honest question of what a brand is, because some elements, whether they are fringe or is a new political strategy, say your move posture party does not seem to align with what its original intent is. Archbishop
Dr. William Ahoba, party to man condemn, they only distance themselves from this.
The man advice said that man of they will come after you.
That's who they are now. Naka Yebeka go for Takwa concession.
Your advice is 1 minute to take it into consideration.
Producer, the other room, I go to the 1 minute.
I have a position.
1 minute.
And I think that will feature in my 1 minute.
Say 1 minute, you know, you say, you know my job for so many years. When I'm more less in the Bewu somewhere next year, August. And I'm there later, I could say, yes, some more another 20 years. No more far into. It's the question is say, so you Ghana your percentage ye 10%. Na go for the 90%. Go.
But no cross say you give royalty pay.
Until 10%. And until you miss say, boy,
you see, me and me I am talking like Von D. David. I think say you started too good Ghana Hache. And say you be woman na near too good wa. Na gold no need to core business na anything. And he said to form a boba bisha form ho. Gold wo ma goodie wo my friend gold. ukona blast abo no a no wasesa begun figem no wanyam na o de edrogu so eyi gold no wato abo no yi no wato egu enkosi daben na Ghana fo ansan yetimi esua saade yi na yeni yetimi take charge of our minerals. Number 2, partnership de eye adan na yeni yemfa ye geologist yenye ye study bibia nguho wo ba abrante masase ni agude ewo mu ni misusu say because these are all predictions gold ewo mu bi about $5 billion ma ye mi nhihye nyina wie won su kofa won fidie ni wosika bra va be ye wo ya wo be chemu mienu na me ma fa baako won su afa baako enkosi da ban ne ye man crofo me fa 90% ne ye afa 10% enkosi da ban me de ma dwene ne se me mpese ye be pamo bi a wa ye adwuma wa ha na so yen san so hye embra no foforo se want me ni su a ne obi na kumantwi ye hye embra no foforo woni abetena wa ye adwuma ye da ase wa ye ade sese no ye ni aso ye ni mabo a gold wo mu ye betimi apae ade ayam nyame adom ye nya Ibrahim Mahama wo ye adwuma fefefe nyame ne da na se ye pe Ghana fo akasifo no so bi nko mining mu nya Ibrahim Mahama nko na nko nji Ghana enko mining ni mu bi na ye nya akasifo bra kwam despite mo wo bia sa mo de be ko mining mo nkom na enye adwuma Ghana fo betimi ato shares wo na Ghana fo oni wo ankasa resources na obi ba se me pese me ye bia studies aye we fa ne say bia twefotimo kwa bia gold e wo ha no ya hwe geological report ni bia gold ya hwe ni nyina wo de osika ne omfidi e be ba ye da ase wo be fa mabunu dodo se we adwumam wo be ya nipa dodo se we adwumam se na obetua obetua wo wie ni saa ye chemu sei
bida se
fa 50 na me nso me fa 50
okay
ye betimi aye na gold tuo no ahobrasiem o
bida se ya yi kwesi 1 minute bi na ye hwe sa ebinum se ye fa ma omo mi se aye fo se ma bampini na chamber of mines for so se ye sa emwa
chamber of mines wo ku ama hona
Jacob na to be very fair with the IE me follow omo press engagement no omo ankase ma yen farmer gold fields. All what they called for is increased local content participation, and to that leg, that is the whole many honorable adjoin say yambra no your mining laws no I was say a na ye state exactly what the local content participation percentage should be. But honorable asema okay so no once a mining no a quite huge investment. Mining investment in say any other business investment. Sike komu no asopa ye. Enti no ade no so no e wose ye hwe ne ye. Na yes anyama we ni aso ne hwe how a ye bisa ye ho say decisions are you taking, is it boosting investor confidence and I say demoralizing investor confidence? Na ye sending komoni ani esa ka say mining concessions ni say the more local companies na ye nye na mu nda ho na nye transparent ye nye ne say because obinia linked to the government of the day obaye no aban no ama wenya 3 major mining concessions Azuma Resource, Blackwater, Sankofa, Damai yen hwesa nyoma ni tender processor
we no started time
never did not
start mining na concession say obi bakufo nya na brebe na start say oye ho adwuma.
It's about time unyai. I'm referring to time unyai. Nobody has raised conversation about time the fact is that the fact of the matter is that IMF matter is different from the concession and the respectfully IMF has no be a concession and the are two distinct things. Are two very separate things.
And I do this results about IMF say economy ni be grow no mo ye hihye bi to ho ma KPMG for can say by 2025 no economy ni be grow if we see beba from nasefo me boa enti tutua mo ye no na so abane na me bisa say sa concession kan wasam say obi obi dia no o sha se bre dan na you the results no bre ben
authoritatively and legally or shall say 2025 and a year the results 2026
which of
the mine growth project are engineers and planners president Nimia the man process now say officially 2025
letter now
or shall say officially 20
that is not true.
Let's have a conversation about the letter
no
so share your mining laws now your mining laws nature says say person the company be a merger and now say oh yeah acquisition under your mining laws now you need a no objection letter from the minister for mines to allow you to open conversations with the owner of the mine to either allow a merger or an acquisition. A no objection letter does not in any way mean say go and take over the mine. That is not what it means.
May that say
if that is the understanding the process no shall say I think say wrong understanding.
May that say when I want to be so be 90 years.
Is a wrong understanding.
Yeah, but me Jimmy there. I mean say me try my adwene wo da mazi ho a. Go face wo vin fa na wo be.
South Africa.
Ovin
South Africa.
Ghana ni bi wo. In fact, last time I was in Ezibonimpo, if you want to be a cook, you don't have to be a South African. Xenophobic attacks. What's in there say? A Padibios of Obozino Krona, Matthew Uganda or so. No, so what are you here for? Also, I'm a cook. I said, this is wrong. You don't have to be here. You can't be a cook when you are not a South African. So, what it means is that, say, I'm amazing. Say, when you do waso no renewal. Uncle. You sakon as in waso. Time as one waso. Or do you renew? You have the option to either renew or not renew. Abandon renew. Uncle. Now, in a Ghana from where they made me, Sabanaka sent to me, Ghana for Butu Abum. So where 10 where 20 on for his come, Uncle Shalom, so from boom, no one begging 1 year. No for something to come because it's highly unthinkable. Chinese for mining company the Australia will be I think Canada also will be them they produce gold more than Ghana. Yet all mining companies will money here they need you see one to do own chromes in here and Yanzi can one so butu no was known for someone to own chrome into Abanama easy on Yanzi cry. Lose na so one call na in one call e be Ghana full iskafo sabana pon ya e be Ghana full iskafo no nya abana go into partnership say 50-50 yen na no for some ba because I go pause me dey fun tumpon na mom obutu ko no ko to won ko mom pon za
no me da say
na Ghana dey so mo ye no Ghana you need 90% yeah 10%
sorry no I think say common ya di ni nyina you know, say Ghanaian resources should be used by Ghanaians. The ministers will be wakunya way who Becca say Ghana shouldn't take control of Ghanaian resources. Obi Becca say be on pel mine. I don't think anybody is saying that. And I think the general sentiment is quite now be first will be protect Ghanaian interest without precipitating global anger. But no lease nasa sebi menana okodo nasa ase na moya busa eno ya wo do kofa wo ne ma be ye no ono be bu mu miensa
wafa mienu no
wafa baako so no nasa ase no oto koko your friend say spray ama okwa obeche mienu ofa baako no afa ba ona obeye adwuma wa asase ni so nyina na say the nimdie we e ba ne say le ojato echire
you over 10%
as I say endo koko kra na wo minimum amena na be fa fi so 33%. Now so say bi nimdie akọ echire nti ye dey say dey pay 10 say nimdie no I was say asasa whatever it is I think I lean towards the people who tend to think that Yanfama Abontin Sunia Beboa Ghana. I tend to lean towards that.
Okay.
But the coming Akusineja, I think say ya come and but yen say Ghana mine no but the better MPP and NDC. And I think that by way is shown inclination to sebi opese oyo man yi me na so obi opera akokotoko no yenya na bro nti I think anybody who is well meaning and wants the nation to progress sebi we shouldn't be in a hurry to wish say aban bi be fairly for political reasons. Let's do whatever we can.
Me that's it. Ya so mpa me that's papa enti de nkomo twhwere nyina ebesi wa ha na no pe ne won ma etam kakra ka ho ye de besi na we de ansa meja bedwafo kwan no ene Emilia Oshimbia Oshim Emilia Oshimbia oku school or Yoko RC Basic School na so we teacher ni teacher ni ayo Emilia Oshimbia Oyoko RC Basic School ho na wo kira de okofodua nti Oshimbia ese na yewoda ama support se utiri nkwa pa ena no pay mpanifo a ebeka mensa ema yedi nkomo owura set Dr. Set Tekpe yenya no ahomaso ema eni no edi nkomo oye financial analyst obi a wabi uskase mututu ye pa ono de FIM efushishi ni mansa na bedwafo ebedi nkomo no timi benkum search ropa na kwasibo twegenia okan PP communication team no ho ena de oto ano so ayonu nyamfo David T. Devon D. oye sehwi etimokwa mrashe Chifu
etimokwa
mekanze sehwi chifu no I said me kote na wakakra na misua me kote na betu se matena twist chifu etimokwa mrashe bedwani na fe ya so mpanso legal private legal practitioner oye lawyer ni NSKC monso
kwesibo criminal civil defense
aha na edin kono na ebobok man so ebobok man so eba ma UP oye ukro position deputy communication director ama UP party no ono so eba ma UP ni party entiene yedi besia ensem komo no yedi bi wo ho ayi be send account ye ka ni ejabi na abrepon de aka na de beto aso de America na ye de asoro so nyina ene se ye twie mu tan oman no ye de a anya atem didi obedidi me kwabra meti atem ena be sesa ma oman na akọ nanim anya poecha obetwa me ena be ma oman na gina anya ta beta ata me ena be ma oman na gina na emu no adwempa wo a wo de betum de abo ma na akọ nanim no eye ma binu mi ni nyina sanse nananu ye bi ena didi mu abedu binu mi no so a yeso ye te sanke na nananu ampe omoje ni anyere wo mo ho anye fa ho di amayen a anke ni Ghana disadu binu mi no so na so de odi abaya ne sa atem didi nko a na so bedi a koso edi atem no wo mo ewo fie nyansa no edum nyansa be boa mama na tumi akonanim ekonanim a wo do niema no betina so biemu o man mu ha ya kra mo adondom ya da se na ebehia bye bye